3, 2. Youngstown in the house. How are you, brother?
Good. How you doing?
Thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You were out here working with Danny Garcia?
No,
Mikey Garcia.
Mikey Garcia and Garcia Camp. Also, I came out, a couple things, as we mentioned earlier, a buddy of mine, Mark Lomachenko, throwing some ideas around and kind of just taking a week out here in California to, keep moving.
It's nice, right?
So it is nice. Yeah, it was nice in Ohio, believe it or not. And then this morning they woke up to like 3 inches of snow. So I'm out here enjoying, and they got the snow.
Well, the thing about LA is no one's from here. So everybody grew up in a place like Youngstown or something like that. Like you were saying, you're running into a bunch of Youngstown people out here. Tony Hinchcliffe got super excited to see you.
Absolutely. And I'm, that's what's weird about that. I'm excited to see him, and he's excited to see me. And it was really cool. I've heard of Tony, and I knew of Tony, before and everything. And then to finally be able to meet him and somebody from Youngstown that's doing, great things, it was kind of cool. So.
Yeah, no, it was cool hanging out with you when we were in Columbus, too. That was a fun time.
That was good eatings, too.
Yeah, what was the name of that place again?
You guys picked it, I believe.
I think it was
Italian Market, I think.
Whose joint was that? Is that
It was your friend's friend of a friend.
Matt Brown's friend, right?
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
Matt the Immortal?
Yeah, another good guy.
Yeah, no, he's a fucking scary dude.
Yeah, right.
He's such a savage.
I got to tell you a funny story with him. We're at my gym, and he came and did a seminar at my gym. And I have just a fitness gym right now there. And he was going over and he was showing people when he kind of came in, and I was showing like a little punch and a hook, and he started doing the elbow off the hook. Now, I'm a pretty big guy now since I retired, and and I'm working on losing the weight, but he hit me with that elbow on my arm, and it just hurt, and it was slow motion. He wasn't throwing it hard, and I'm going, if this son of a bitch really wanted to turn that over, I wouldn't want to get hit by it.
Yeah, elbows are awful. Bones are awful. It's like it always weirds me out that the UFC has little padding on the gloves, but there's no padding on your shins, no padding on your elbows, no padding on your knees. It's a terrible way to take a beating.
It is, and people get into the brutality of it. Unfortunately, not because I boxed. I think box is more brutal. The only reason is because if you get dropped in boxing, you got 10 seconds to get up. Your brain could be rattled in the first round, and you could get dropped 4 more times in that fight. You got 36 minutes to fight. And unfortunately, in MMA, they're hitting you with the knees, the elbows, and if you go down, they usually stop the fight.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, because somebody could come down with an atomic knee drop and,
That's not legal.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it's, or anything can happen in it, so.
When you were fighting, MMA wasn't as big as it is now, but did you ever think about doing it?
No, and to be honest with you, no. But I was always interested in it. I was always interested in the martial arts. Actually, that's how I got into boxing. Was a young kid taking taekwondo, and I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but
that's how you pronounce it.
Okay, and I got into it with that. It was, to me, it was kind of like boring. I'm a young kid. I was full of piss and vinegar, and I wanted to actually get in and do something. And I played other sports. But, then after I retired a little bit, I kind of strayed away from everything in the fight game. And I started getting interested in jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And
how old were you when you retired?
30.
30. That's young.
Yeah, still am pretty young.
How old are you now?
36.
Yeah, you're still in the range,
yeah.
It's effective range.
Oh, that's why I've been working out, and I kind of slowed down on the powerlifting a lot and been getting flexible again. So
you haven't had a fight in 6 years. Do you ever get the itch?
That's why I'm saying.
Are you getting the itch right now?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, I've been. Well, another reason why I came out and was talking with Mark and everything, but I don't want to lead nobody ever on either.
Right.
This is something
you're just thinking.
I'm really thinking about it, and I'm working out, losing the weight. But at the same time, there's a lot of process behind that, too. I would have to sit down with the family, just go over a lot of things,
Are you doing any boxing these days?
I've been working out, just hitting the bag, pads, stuff like that.
Right.
I'm still lifting, but nothing.
You're jacked, dude. Look at the size of your fucking arms.
I know.
You ain't fighting middleweight, son.
No, and cruiserweight is the nice area right now.
That's the range?
Yeah, anybody but Usyk, and I'm not fighting that.
That guy's scary as fuck.
Yeah, and I don't. The thing is, everybody, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, and the first thing that came out about it was, he needs the money. So I can't win for losing. You know what I mean? Like, because there's other things right now that we're talking about. I actually been in contact, believe it or not, with Dancing with the Stars, and
Jesus!
So I'm having fun with it now, I guess. Don't make no jokes on.
I'd rather take a fight.
I'd rather fight you, sick. Believe me.
Dancing with the Stars is fucking hard work, man.
Talks of it, which my buddy Mark's doing.
I've had a couple friends that have been on that.
Yeah,
and they said it's brutally hard work.
It is. Virgil Ortiz, who was a fighter, been on it.
Yeah.
So that's where it's going. Why I don't want people also, the rumor mill starting that he's broke, he needs the money, because it's absolutely not the case.
So you retired healthy.
Yeah.
You retired young.
Yeah.
And you set some money away. Yeah. But you still, look, you were a world champion for a reason. You know, you had to become a real world champion, you have to have some crazy drive, some competitive fire inside you. So,
there is. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand in any combat sport. Combat's combat. I'm not patting myself on the back. I don't know if it's even good to say, but, you know, combat world champion athletes and fighters, mentality-wise, you're always going to have that mentality, you know?
Right.
And my only reason why I'm even throwing this around, and I guess that's the right term to use, because if nothing comes of it, I don't want the backlash on that either, because I'm still only 36. And I'm at that point where I got that small window still, you know, where I'm not 40.
Right.
I'm not 38. And, you know, I've been healthy for, you know, 4.5 years, and I've been working out. And
what made you decide to go powerlifting?
I know, tell me that's
just fucking show bitches what's up.
Yeah, that's another
show
one.
Them guns.
Yeah, exactly, right? I was tired. Think about it. I was so damn skinny. If I turned sideways and stuck my tongue out, I looked like a zipper. You know what I mean? And being 6'2", having to make 160 pounds, even between fights, you still had to maintain, you know, your weight. And I got tired of that.
What was your walking around weight?
I would walk around about 173.
That's not that bad.
No, it's not. And
for MMA, that's real light.
Yeah, and you know, and then, but as I got older, yeah, I started getting a little more difficult to, you know, keep that, and I started getting up to like 175, almost 180. So now you're looking at and I'm still skinny at that point. So now you're looking at having to lose 20 more pounds again to get down at that age, and it came to a point which caused a lot of issues for me in one fight with the Martinez fight, and after that we had to jump up.
Yeah, that point of diminishing returns, right? When you're just cutting too much weight.
Yeah.
When you fought Jermaine Taylor, that was 160, right?
Yes.
Yeah, dude. I was one fight where I remember getting angry at Larry Merchant. Larry Merchant is calling the fight. I'm like, he wasn't recognizing that you were tuning him up and you were hurting him. And he was commenting on almost like it was a trend that he expected to see rather than what was actually happening.
Yeah. There was a lot of things about that fight. I love them guys because, believe it or not, in my opinion, that was a great fight. And I seen that they had that fight in the top 10 middleweight, one of the top 10 middleweight fights of all time, and that's kind of a cool thing. But also, you know, some of that commentating, though, really made that fight, especially at the end, in my opinion, made that fight kind of what it was also, you know, besides the fact of me getting dropped and everything. But you know, I didn't agree with the judging of it, you know, because I still had me ahead. I went back and watched it. I'm not one of those egotistical people either. Like, I like to really break down what happened in that fight. And if I lost a round, I would say I lost a round. You know, I was hard on myself with that. I watched that fight now probably 10 times. And I don't see where they had Jermaine winning, you know?
Yeah.
I gave him 1 round and plus the 10-8, so that's a total of 3 rounds. And I don't see how that happened.
Well, you know, I mean, we've had this conversation 100 times in this podcast, but judging in boxing and judging in MMA, judging is just terrible. Yeah. It's just terrible. It's sad. It doesn't make any sense. There's so many experts out there. There's so many really reliable people that you can call on that would do a great job of figuring out what's going on in a fight, and for whatever reason, they don't get those jobs.
I think they got to start doing something soon in boxing with that.
Yeah.
They have to figure something out with the judging.
You see the Charlo fight?
Yes. Yeah. And there's a handful of people I had the argument with that actually thought Charlo lost. I didn't think that he looked as good as he could have in that fight.
Yeah.
But I thought he won the fight, you know, 116 and 112. But I don't know what system they could try to break down for that or try to get to actually start making some of them fights fair. But boxing's doing fantastic the past 2 years. I mean, the numbers are crazy. You've seen what the Zone did with Canelo, and so it's there. The attention's at the sport, and the popularity of it's coming back. But what could eventually hurt it again is things like the judging of the fights and the outcomes.
Well, there's certain ones where you want a criminal investigation, like Tim Bradley, Manny Pacquiao. That was one where after that was up, I was like, I was looking at the TV, I was looking to the side, I was looking away. I was like, what the fuck did I just see? What just happened here?
That fight right there, I actually had to walk away with my head down. That was probably one of the worst robberies that I've ever seen in boxing.
It was a horrible robbery.
I searched to give Tim Bradley 2 rounds. I gave him one. I was trying to give him rounds to kind of like say, where did you get this at? In other words, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I love Tim Bradley too, by the way.
Awesome guy.
Awesome fighter too. I mean, he's just all heart. I mean, he's amazing. But that just was a bad decision. And I think there was a lady that was responsible for 2 really bad decisions.
Adelaide Bird. Was
it her or was there was another one too? There was an Adelaide Bird. She does MMA too.
I want to say, Letterman's daughter, maybe.
Well, there was another lady who retired from doing it after that decision. It was like a big controversy. People were her score was so off. People were thinking she got paid off.
There's so many anymore, though. It's hard to keep up with it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, and people that are cynical or skeptical, do you know how much money is being bet on fights, especially a Manny Pacquiao fight? There's so much money. Yeah. And if someone like Pacquiao is a prohibitive favorite heading into a Tim Bradley fight, I mean, who knows? It could be 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. Somebody rolls up with a nice brown baggie filled with hundreds. Hey, look who we got here. Here's $30,000. You'll never have to report.
I think there's more behind why that happens too. You know what I mean?
Has to be. That's always been the idea that there's no bribery going on anymore is crazy.
I don't want to say it, but I think I have an idea. I think it comes down to who's putting the show on and who's in the pocket.
Well, Teddy Atlas was explaining it too when he was on the podcast. One of the things that he was saying was that they take these people out to dinner. Like they're all in cahoots and friendly with each other. And if there's a certain result that the promoter would like to see, these judges will lean towards that if they have a good relationship with that promoter.
You said it for me.
Yeah, that's what it is. Look, Teddy laid it out.
And I don't know. Yeah, it's bad because, again, boxing's really coming back. It is. And the fights, you got 3 or 4 weight classes right now. That's so interesting. But the bad part about it is you don't get interested in it or you don't get as excited anymore because you're afraid of the outcome of the fight.
Yeah. I wasn't terribly upset at the Wilder-Fury decision. I wasn't terribly upset. I thought, you know what? I think Tyson Fury did enough to win, but when I look at it, I like when they score damage. Damage means a lot to me. And when I look at that fight, when Wilder hurt him, he hurt him twice, and he hurt him real bad. I mean, I think that's worth a lot. And I think he was always threatening. So I felt like, I don't know if I would agree with a draw. I think it was a close decision win for Tyson Fury, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it because I think I'd like to see them fight again.
Absolutely. I mean, it was one of them fights where, yes, you're 100% right, that it could end in a draw, and I think everybody would be kind of satisfied with that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with the count and knockdown, which I was so frustrated with the comments, and, I had to stay away from the social media and the boxing groups and things like that. Because
why is that?
Some of the opinions of people, that's the way to put it. That was a long count, and this and that. There's been thousands of fights in the last 10 years, and I've very seldom heard anybody complain about a count. That fight, they don't do a 10-second count in boxing. They go by the referee's count.
Right.
And for another thing where Wilder kind of hurt himself, the referee tells you in the locker room before the fight, and he explains it to you, go to your neutral corner. If you come out of your neutral corner, I will stop the count. I mean, you know that. So the first thing I used to do when I dropped somebody is I ran my ass to that neutral corner, so that referee could start counting. I didn't see any issue with the knockdown. I even recorded it on my phone, and if you did go by the 10-second count, Tyson Fury still beat it.
Really?
Yes, I have it. I'd have to go through and find it.
I thought I saw it on Instagram or one. It was. I think it was on Wilder's Instagram where he had it where the count starts right when Fury drops.
I counted it as soon as his back, almost right before his back hits the ground, until where he got up. And again, that's only a 10-second count without a referee even coming over to it. You know.
Okay.
But you know, as far as the fight itself, I gave Wilder obviously the 2 knockdowns. That's automatically 4 rounds. But I thought, and I gave him one other round after that. I thought Tyson Fury controlled the action. You know, had controlled the momentum of the fight. On the flip side of it, I think that Wilder actually could have made that an easier fight too. You know, Wilder actually has a hard time with his control. He don't know how to really work to the body. I don't want to put it on a trainer. I don't know what the issue is with that, but he neglected that body a lot throughout the fight. And I just thought that's why Tyson won most of those rounds. You know, he just controlled the action, the pace, and was kind of able to do what he wanted to. And I think that if Wilder went back with his trainer and watched the tape of that fight, they're going to see a lot of opportunities that were missed in that fight.
Well, you know, what's crazy about Wilder is how little time he's actually been boxing. I mean, it's really stunning. When he was on here, he told us that he made it to the Olympic team a year and a half into learning boxing.
Yeah.
And he won a bronze medal.
In the heavyweight division, though, you could kind of get away with that, too.
Yeah.
You can. You know, most of your back then also, were big guys who came up. Usually most of them were football players or something like that. And they kind of just got into the sport. And still, even to this day, you're talking about maybe 3 heavyweights that really could throw down, as where some of the other guys are just big, sloppy guys that come in.
Right.
You know.
So what do we got now? You got Luis Ortiz. You got Fury, Wilder, Joshua. Who else? Joseph Parker.
Yeah, Parker. You know, and I think right now Parker is one of the guys that could actually still upset anybody in the heavyweight division, especially with that style that he has.
Yeah.
You know? So it's getting interesting again, though. It is.
It's certainly. Well, I think with Wilder and Fury, that was one of the more interesting heavyweight title fights in a long time. And Wilder's it's so weird. He's so different. He weighs 209 pounds. He's skinny as a rail. He hits you. It looks like you got hit in the face with a missile. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, because that is a missile he's firing.
Fucking crazy power that guy has, isn't it?
And I try to explain to people on that, too. You don't have to be a big guy. You know, it's all about the leverage, the torque, how you generate that power. And, you know, he's just one of them guys that's one of the things where you either have it, you got it in the cradle, or you don't. And that's another one that you try to explain, even like in baseball. You're either a home run hitter or you're not. You know, you could work on it a little bit and maybe knock 1 or 2 more home runs out or knock a guy or 2 out more. But if you don't have it, you're not going to, unless you really go back over and find the time and patience to reprogram that fighter and change the whole style. Yeah,
it feels like one punch knockout power you either have or you don't.
Yeah.
But the guys who can put it on you and stop you, like Julio Cesar Chavez, never had really that one punch knockout power, but he fucked a lot of people up.
And he had that body shot too. He didn't need a knockout punch to the head.
Dude, he was so perfect when he was in his prime. The way he would fight was constant bobbing, weaving, moving in, and then once he put that pace on you, it was just constant damage, constant punches, the volume, the accuracy, and the fact that he never got tired. He would just keep that pace up, bap, 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 and you would see guys just start to wilt, just backing up all the time, just wilt under that pressure.
Yep, and that's that body attack that he had. How he invested into that body from the early rounds. People carry those punches. You know, they carry that into the 5th and 6th round, and it was brutal. You know, I couldn't imagine fighting. I fought some tough guys, but I was glad, you know, being a tall guy, nobody ever went to the body like that against me. I would have hated that.
It's a fucking rough way to make a living, bro. Here's Chavez in his prime. God damn, he was good. Woo! He was so good. I mean, it's just constant movement, too. Constant cutting angles and the fucking pressure.
Another one like him was Duran, too.
That's Roger Mayweather, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Black Mamba. Yeah, people forgot about Roger.
Yeah, he just systematically broke you down, Chavez.
Yeah.
Very tactical and textbook, and didn't make many mistakes. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't overly fast. He wasn't overly powerful, but he just broke you down the right way and threw the right punches.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Threw the right punches. He was just relentless, and he was constantly moving forward, constant pressure. God damn, he was good.
Yep, and you know, Greg Haugen.
Oh, remember that when Greg Haugen said he fought a bunch of Tijuana taxi drivers and he beat the shit out of Greg Haugen?
Yeah.
There's those left hooks to the body. But
Those
just
are some
like
tough taxi drivers.
young fighters, man, you want to like emulate a guy who just fought with perfect technique. This is the guy.
Well, you know, that comes down to another thing that I was breaking down. I touched on it on my show a lot, and a lot of people get mixed up and confused on the fact of footwork with people. And some of the guys that had the best footwork in boxing were not flashy guys with the footwork, or even like Mikey Garcia now, or like a Bernard Hopkins is another one. But you had the guys, Pernell Whitaker. I know I'm going to probably get beat up on this. He had decent footwork. What I mean by that is because, yeah, he'd make you miss, but Pernell Whitaker a lot of times put himself out of range by moving like that. You know, he'd make that move or he'd do it too much, and then he wasn't there to counter. So what good did it do? You get guys like Chavez or Duran or guys like Mikey Garcia now, they take that one little step, inches and angles. They take that one step and they're right in position for that punch. They take the opposite step to suffocate your punch, you know, and throw you off. They spin you around. You know, that's where footwork comes in, and Chavez was great at that.
Yeah, he was always in range. He was always in range. He was never running away, and yeah. And his you know, the guy who does it the best today about cutting angles and being right in front of you and you can't hit him is Lomachenko. I mean, Lomachenko stands right in front of you, and then he's not.
Yeah.
And then he's over here, and then he's punching you in the face. TJ Dillashaw, who's a UFC bantamweight champion, said he sparred with him, and he said the first round was like, you know, Lomachenko's just feeling him up, just figuring him out, and, you know, he's like, man, I'm kind of hanging in there with this guy. And then his dad yelled something in Russian, and then the second round, Lomachenko's just dancing around him, stepping to the side, touching him in the face. And
unfortunately, that was the only round they put on YouTube, too. You know what I mean? Yeah, I seen that. You know, the thing with Lomachenko is this. And I tell people also, like, Floyd Mayweather is unbelievable defensive fighter. But Floyd was really good on drawing you in, you know, and kind of countering off that. His defense and his reflexes were amazing, but he kind of lured you in a little bit, made you miss, made you make a mistake, and then he would counter you.
Yeah.
Lomachenko, on the other hand, is a guy, you could throw a punch, and that punch could be in midair, and he's spinning, and he's already behind you.
Yeah.
It's the athleticism is astonishing. I have not seen it. Granted, can he lose? Absolutely. It's boxing. And if you get one of them rugged guys that are just going to come in and say, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to get hit, but I'm going to hit him. That may be a type of fighter that beats Lomachenko.
Well, who was it that was the Mexican guy who beat him in one of his first fights?
Oh,
Solis?
Salido.
Salido.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was the kind of fight that he fought.
Yeah.
Just dirty, got on top of him.
But you got to understand on that point, too, that was Lomachenko's second pro fight.
Yeah.
And
against a real veteran.
A guy who's been there and done it and seen it. And that's the argument. And it's hard to explain, again, and that was another argument on these that I get a little frustrated reading. It's second pro fight. And usually in boxing, though, it goes like the first year, you're up 4, 6. Second year, maybe you start getting up to 8. But you get a good amount of fights under your belt before you start getting into the 10 rounds and 12 rounds. Okay? You're talking about a kid coming out of the amateurs fighting 3 3-minute rounds or 4 2-minute rounds, depending on whatever tournament or international tournament it is. And he's going right into a 12-round fight. I know myself coming up, and the process that Top Rank brought me up, which was a great process too, they picked the fights, and they made sure that the fights that they picked for me were the correct fights. And they groomed me the right way, you know, by rounds and everything else. And I know just jumping from 6 to 8, the difference in that, you know, let alone being a kid and you're going into your second pro fight and you're fighting a 12-round fight. So if he lost that fight, which he came back and he made it a really close fight, I would have to tip my hat to him just on the fact that he was able to go 12 rounds.
Yeah.
You know, people take a lot away from that fighter. What he accomplished is something that not many can do.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, he had a second pro title at what? How many fights in?
Yeah, the second fight was for the world title. Then he won the world title in his third pro fight.
Yeah, that's insane. And then, but he's had more than one per world title, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he's won, I think, 3 different weight classes now.
Right. But his second one was something insane, some insanely short. See, pull up his record.
Yeah,
Lomachenko?
I believe if I'm right. I
Lomachenko,
looked
yeah.
this up.
First fight was.
What's that?
This is his first fight was for the international featherweight title.
That was against Salido?
Ramirez. He said
Oh,
he
okay.
lost against Salido for the vacant WBO featherweight title.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the other, what was the first title?
International featherweight title, WBO.
Yeah,
It says.
that's not a real. That's not like a world title. They have a bunch of weird titles, right? Like international title, continental title.
You're insulting me. I had the
How dare
WBO.
you?
I had the
You
WBO.
were the world champion, motherfucker.
Yeah, but I know.
But you had all of it. You were unified.
Well, I should have been, by all rights. But
Yeah.
Taylor vacated too.
oh, that's right.
Yeah, but that's why I get mad, and that's for another big argument in boxing. How you break that down between the
Let me see
lineal,
that. Put that back up.
the lineal, and unanimous. I had the ring, the WBO.
Scroll up CC's whole record. So, what was his? Okay, so his second world title was when? Retained one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights in.
Okay.
He's in his second. That's when he wins his second title. 6 fights in, he wins a junior lightweight title. That's insane.
Yeah, the international. Okay, that wasn't the first one. Wasn't a world title fight. It was
Right.
but the second one was the WBO world title fight. And
11 fights in, he wins his third world title. What in the fuck?
I believe now there was at one point it was 7 world champions in just that short period of fights. I believe it's around 8 now. 8 world champions he's fought in just that short period. 3 different weight classes.
I think when he fought Rigondeaux, you really got a chance to see how he handles a real world-class, Cuban amateur system trained, top of the food chain boxer, and he just put it to that dude.
That was the fight that actually really sold me on Lomachenko.
Yeah.
Because I thought for a fact that was going to be a chess match because of the boxing ability from Rigondeaux. Their styles were very similar.
Yeah.
And I thought that, I was like, it's going to be a boring fight for the first, 4 rounds, which I still would have liked because I like watching that type of fights,
Mm-hmm.
And I go in there and I'm expecting this fight, the amateur background of both guys, how talented the guys are and the skill level of both guys. And then next thing I know, I'm 2 or 3 rounds into it, and I'm going, he's playing with Rigondeaux.
Yeah.
Playing with him. I'm going, how? That's the fight that really sold me on Lomachenko, that he's that good.
My man Vinny Pazienza called that, not Vinny Pazienza the boxer, Vinny Paz the rapper. This guy, Jedi Mind Tricks, he called it. He was taking bets on Instagram.
Jeez.
He was saying,
He called it that early, too?
yes,
Wow.
he was taking bets on Instagram. If you think Rigondeaux has anything for him,
Wow.
he's like, find me in the DMs. He goes, let's bet.
Yep. I took Lomachenko in that fight, but I thought it was going to be a close fight, really close fight, and I thought Lomachenko was going to pull ahead in the later rounds, and win that fight. So that's why it really surprised me,
Well, it was a stunning display of talent. He's such a weird guy, too, because his background, you know the story where his father took him out of boxing and made him do traditional Russian dancing for several years and just made him learn that for footwork. It seems like his dad was just a mastermind architect of a champion.
Yeah, you probably know more on this than I would. Didn't he also have a martial art background, I heard?
He definitely can do martial arts techniques. I've seen it, but I don't know what.
I thought
see,
I
see if
may
he had
have
a martial
heard.
arts background. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That makes sense. He's his footwork though is so extraordinary, and if that really is that dancing background, like learning the footwork and the way he's so agile with the stepping of his feet. It's like I think a lot of people are going to learn and mirror that.
Yeah, his training regimen is pretty brutal also. I got a buddy, Roger Romo, a good friend of mine. He was working for a little while there up until the last fight. He was a strength and conditioning coach with Cecilio Flores, who was mine when I was in Oxnard training. And they said it was just crazy, the hours that he puts in, how he trains, how hard he trains, and some of the drills that he does. I'm looking at them and going, I could use these, not for me, but I could use them for some of the athletes that I got now.
Yeah, he's definitely something special. And you get those guys, and it's kind of a shame that he's a little too small for Terrence Crawford. I mean, I really would love to see those two fight, but it seems like Crawford's just a little bit too heavy for him.
I agree, but that's that's another touchy subject because I kind of agree with you, but I also go back because I'm always trying to really break down and nitpick. I look at guys like Manny Pacquiao, who came from, I believe, 112 or something
Yeah.
like that, and went up all the way to junior middleweight.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. He's shorter than Lomachenko.
Yeah.
And other than his calves, I don't think anything else is much bigger than Lomachenko on his body. And he was able to do it.
Hey, what the fuck is going on with his calves?
I don't know.
It's like he's keeping hams in them.
I don't know what he does. I wish I knew the secret to that because I could use it. So
Get that secret to John Jones.
This article says that his mother was actually still is a martial artist.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Gymnast and martial artist.
Well, it makes
His dad's
sense.
a boxer.
Yeah, man. Footwork, the way he does it is just, it's something to watch, man. It's just the ability to move and also to anticipate the other fighters' movements. It's like, especially earlier in his career, it's like he was fighting guys that just, they seemed so crude in comparison to his approach.
Yeah, and you know what's even more crazy about it is being the opponent, because usually you go into a fight and you break down film and you're going over the film and you got a good idea of what he does right, what he does wrong, and what you might have to do. Lomachenko, it's hard to pick up where he's going to go. He different angles, so you can't go, well, you know what? After he throws the right hand, he likes to move over to the left because he does it one time, and then the next time he's totally somewhere opposite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, the angles, it's really almost impossible to break film down on him. You know, like this last fight with this Pedraza, everybody's going, that was the blueprint. I'm going, no, it wasn't. You know, and they're saying it was a closer fight than people expected. I go, why? Because he finally got hit with more than 11 punches in the fight.
Oh, that's him doing a sambo, I
Yeah,
believe
I guess
that is.
trained it when he was a younger.
Greco-Roman. Yeah, he's slamming kids. That's right. Well, you know what, man? I believe in cross-training, and I think that there's certainly some skills that would make you better at different martial arts. And I feel like if you have the ability to wrestle guys and move guys' bodies around like that you would get from something like Sambo, I just feel like as an elite boxer, having that extra strength, that extra ability to move your core that way, I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, no world-class boxer has the time to also be doing judo and also be doing wrestling. You just don't have the time.
Nope. And being in combat sports, even I know that as far as I'm not involved in MMA, but I know that, these guys, they have to perfect 3 or 4 as much time in a short period of time. I think Matt was telling me you would know more, like sometimes it's 2 days of one, 2 days of the next, trying to fit that in. Yeah, it's hard. You cannot, especially in boxing, the sweet science, where it's just hands, but you got people, that's all they do all day long.
Right.
That's why I say it's so unfair when an MMA guy goes in and fights a Mayweather, because Mayweather, he perfected that.
Yeah.
And you got to use just that style of boxing. It's going to be almost impossible to beat a boxer, a world champion boxer.
Did you watch the New Year's fight, that thing that he did with Tenshin Yasukawa?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people think that was a fixed fight. I think that was a 120-pound fighter fighting the best ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it wasn't a fixed fight. I don't know why people think it's a fixed fight. That guy fights at 126 pounds, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's his weight class.
And you could definitely tell the size
tiny.
difference. Just like I could actually tell the size difference, though, when McGregor fought Floyd. I think both of Floyd's legs equaled one of McGregor's.
Yeah.
But, yeah, with that tension, that fight, the first knockdown was legit.
Yes.
And I think my personal opinion what happened, it wasn't fixed, or fake. I believe that he got hit with that right hand and seen that how strong and how the defensive skills that Mayweather had. And I think he said, you know what, this could be a long-ass night. And then the next couple punches, he just kind of like went down because he seen what could happen. He knew which way that fight was going.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what you think?
I do. The first knockdown
Let's play that fight. See if you can find the fight and play it. I feel like the first one clipped him on the temple. He hit him with a left hook on the temple. Hit him with a right hand, but then he hit him with a left hook. The right hand, and then he hit him afterwards as well as he's going down. But I think that left hand to the temple is what did the real damage. And then there was a big right hand afterwards that dropped him. I just think he was out of his league.
Exactly.
Way out of his league.
Not that he took a dive, but almost to the point of like he knew that fight was not going any way the way that he thought it was.
I mean, he was so smiley and relaxed. It was kind of funny. He just sort of walked the dude down. He had a big old smile on his face. Like, look at him smiling. When was the last time you saw? And he's so much bigger than this kid. Right. Yeah, he's fighting like it's a joke. Like, look at him. He's so much bigger than this kid. What's really funny is if they let this kid kick, he would fuck Floyd up.
Yeah.
If they let him kick.
But Floyd made it look so dominant. I didn't even know
Yeah.
on that part. But then again, that kid, his kicks.
That kid would have kicked Floyd's legs out from under him in seconds. Oh, you went too far there. See, he got up right there, boom. See, he hit him with the left hook and he stumbled, and then he hit him with the right hand behind it. And I just think he's too little. He's a very small guy. And for him, I mean, and Floyd's not a big guy. This kid is tiny. I mean, I think he's fought as light as 121 pounds, and I think sometimes he fights at like 126.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can see right there.
Like right there.
Sometimes in a fight, a lot of times in a fight, the whole issue is you get hit with that and you're fighting and somebody taps you with a certain punch. Your brain, you'll be surprised how fast it works, you know, and all the things that go through that mind.
Right here, boom.
Yes,
That's
that
legit.
was, yep. And I think at that moment right there, he just knew going in. You could feel, just when somebody hits you on the arm or the shoulder, you know, how much power they have. And, yeah, I think he was trying to, after that, he knew that was going to be a long night.
So crazy they paid him $9 million for this.
Must be nice. Right?
Yeah, I mean, fuck.
There was a lot of people I seen going, he deserves to give some of these prospects a chance now. You know, he should be fighting these guys instead of doing this. These guys ain't boxers, blah, blah, blah. And my take on that also is the man went 49, 50, and 0.
Yeah.
He fought almost everybody in the sport. And even if you want to say that they were past their prime, some of them may have been a little bit, he still went in there and dominated them and beat them.
Yeah.
This guy, in my opinion, if he wanted to fight defensive backs from the NFL, he has all the right in the world. I don't think that he owes the sport anything. I think actually it's the other way around. The amount of money that he has brought to the sport, the attention that he brought to it. So if he wants to go around and do these size shows, let him. You know, I mean, what do you want him to do? Fight prospects till he's 51 years old?
I couldn't agree more. It's crazy, the idea that they want to see him sacrificed.
Yeah.
They want to see him get beat. That's what they want. They want to see him finally fight someone who's younger and faster and hungrier, who's more active.
And what will happen is that he will lose.
Yeah.
And I think Mayweather is smarter than that. You know,
Yeah.
he wants to go out and keep that his status and the record that he built up and that resume that he has and go out like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they're talking about him fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's the UFC 155-pound champion. But Khabib's not really a boxer.
I just want to say, but boxing rules.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be
Same thing.
Yeah, Khabib's a takedown ground type guy.
Exactly. It would be the same kind of fight as the Conor fight. The only difference is I don't think Khabib would get as tired as Conor would.
Yeah.
I don't think he's definitely got better endurance.
I think one of the only few in there right now that would be a good fight would be one of the Diaz brothers, as far as striking.
That would be interesting. But he would box their face off.
No, I still think that he would win that. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as far as stand up and letting the hands go, I think those are one of the two better ones in the MMA.
Yeah, I mean that
UFC.
he's got all the right in the world to just keep fighting freak shows. Just have fun, man. You're
you know what?
Mayweather.
The only thing is, if Father Time shows up,
Yeah.
he's getting to that age where you might get one of them guys, and
Yeah.
so. I mean, if
Never
he's
know.
having fun, do it. But if you go and get beat by one of them guys, that could change the whole outlook of a career.
Well, it's interesting how guys who are really good defensively, they're not just really good longer because they have such good technique, but also they've taken less damage during their career so that they're more durable as they get older as well. Like you definitely saw that with Bernard.
Yeah.
Like Bernard, up until the Joe Smith fight, I mean, Joe Smith was the first guy to really put it on him like that and knock him out of the ring. And it was hard to see. It was hard to see that they had that ring set up too, where he fell and landed on his fucking head. Like, Jesus Christ.
I don't know if it was so much the ring. I just think it was an awkward way that he went out of them ropes in the way, because he got hurt by that punch.
Yeah.
So, and the legs buckled. And when the legs buckle like that, I think it put him in that awkward position for him to slide out,
Yeah,
of the
his
ring.
ass was headed out, and then he got clipped again and went right through. But, I mean, it just sucks that there's nothing to protect the fighters if they fall out like that. There's no padding. There's no tables, no nothing to break your fall. No one there for it.
You just got to hope one of the ringside judges or commentators are there too.
That's crazy.
And you got guys that are 80 years old trying to push a 200-pound man back in the ring.
Yeah, they're not going to get clipped like that and wind up somebody falling on them. But Bernard was able to keep his skill very late in life. I mean, deep into his 40s, almost to 50 years old, was still world class, which is really crazy.
That is. And you got a handful of guys out there that could do that. And to be honest, but he kept himself in good shape in between fights.
Yeah.
And he did what he was supposed to do. And some guys, you get some guys out there. A good friend of mine, my trainer, Robert Garcia, retired at 29. A Youngstown guy, Mancini, retired young and came back a couple years later, but it was only for one fight.
Who did Mancini come back against?
Greg Haugen.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that fight.
Yep. And some of them, some guys, they go in and do it, and it's fun, and then it becomes a career and job and financial security, the way a lot of fighters look at it. And then you get some guys like Floyd, Manny Pacquiao, Bernard Hopkins, who just love the sport, that much that they don't know anything else outside of it. So...
What was it like fighting Bernard?
Ooh, and I don't know if this is the stage I want to. Fighting Bernard was totally different than what I expected.
What'd you expect?
I expect him to be tricky and sneaky and just very crafty and obviously experienced. I did jump up 2 weight classes to take that fight, and but. At the same time, that was not an 80% Kelly Pavlik. And this is true, and this is documented. I have it on my phone, and I was going to actually bring that out. But that fight, I sparred, 3 times for that, maybe 4. The 4th time was with an arm brace, and then I went into it. And I never said anything because I'm the type of person I don't want to have people think that I was making excuses. I love Bernard, and I think he's one of the greatest of all time, greatest middleweights. But that was not. That night, I came down. We had
what's wrong? What was wrong?
I had bronchitis. I was sick. I was running a temp actually in the locker room. We had to go through with the commission. We almost took the inhaler for it. Then we found out through the commission that you cannot take that because it's steroid. So we had to go to the nasal, or not nasal, the pill, oral pill. We had it in the locker room. I don't know if you ever heard of a guy, Thomas Hauser. He writes. He used to write for New York Times. He does a lot of big boxing books. He was in there, and Hauser he's not one-sided with anybody. He's writes what he knows, what he sees, and that's the truth. And he was in there when the commission came in. They were going through my prescription. They were taking the temperature, giving me the exam, and that's what happened. It was a lethargic fight with of all people.
What was wrong with your arm? You said
I had
you had a brace?
bursitis.
Bursitis in your elbow?
Yeah, and that came into an issue, and we sparred. Like I said, it was a handful. It might have been more than 3 or 4, but it wasn't a lot because usually in training camp you do 3 days a week for about 8-week camp for about 6.5 weeks.
And it was because of your elbow that you couldn't spar?
Yeah, because you didn't want to keep hitting it. And then I didn't like just the way I am. I didn't like having a brace on it or nothing. So that was an issue. And there was a lot of things that sometimes if you could go back and you wish you could do it over again, but there was a lot of other things going on why we didn't postpone the fight. First of all, it sold out, and the Youngstown people bought all the tickets. We had the issue with the Paul Williams fight, that it fell through. So I just came off fighting Gary Lockett, who was really not a well-known name, a household name. So if I would have postponed that fight, the backlash on that would have been bad, really bad. And, so it was more the ego thing that I think and worried about what everybody was going to think. Taking nothing away at all and that's where I wanted to tap into, taking nothing away from Bernard Hopkins. Unfortunately, against a guy like Bernard Hopkins, that I had to have that happen to me is what sucks. And he was a tremendous fighter. I mean, he did things in there. A lot of times I seen him making moves and I knew what he was doing, and I just couldn't pull the trigger on it. And he was fast and he was strong. And then there was times that he just did some crafty things also that, got to me, and his body work in that fight slowed me down a lot. But it was just one of them fights where I could honestly say that was not an 80% Kelly Pavlik. And I could be honest and say if I was 100%, I don't know if I would have won that fight. And I'll be honest about it. I'm not going to be the guy that comes here and says, well, if I was 100%, I would have knocked him out. No, it's Bernard Hopkins,
When you think about your legacy and you think about looking back at your career, those kind of fights where you had to take it when you were compromised, how do those factor in to you? Do those fuck with your head?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. not in a real bad way.
Right, but enough where you're like, if I was 100%.
Yeah, I got invited to the International Boxing Hall of Fame over the summer, and it was cool as hell and to be there. And you start seeing the inductees and everything, and you start breaking down your career. Like, am I able to qualify for this? And is so-and-so going to get pissed off who didn't get in because I got in? And I look at it, and I break it down a couple ways. I say 40-2 with 34 knockouts is a hell of a record. I held the belts for over 3 years. I beat a handful of guys that were legit when I beat them. And then I look at the fight, though. I fought Bernard Hopkins, and I got my ass whipped in that fight. And there's no other way of putting it. It's the truth. So how much did that damage? People remembering that. Nobody looks at the fact of the 2-weight class jump. And then coming back down and defending against a very game Antonio Rubio. And then, of course, the Martinez fight, which a lot of people, and it was documented and on HBO with the commentators, the weight issue in that fight. But
what was the weight issue in that fight?
Oh, just how we had to get down. That was my last fight at middleweight. Trying to cut the weight. I was 29 at the time, and another great fighter that happened. It was tough with the weight. I really can't use that as an excuse, though, because I don't know. But, I know I was doing good. In the 9th round, I did hit a wall. A lot of people try to use the cut. And I think even without the cut, the same result would have happened, though. He would have boxed my ears off the last 4 rounds. It was just one of them things that there's nothing you could do. So when I sum up my career, I look at those fights, and I know personally that they could have been different. But at the same time, I'm very happy and content with the way my career went. I was 40-2. My last 4 fights, I won my last 4 fights. Before I retired. So I went out winning. And I was done with the sport. I truly was. And so I think right now I'm kind of content and happy with my career. Of course, I think anybody says, could it have been better? And I wish it was better. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I'm not going to ever beat myself up over it.
Well, it's just one of those things where when you look back and you think of all the great things that you did accomplish, then you realize that you retired at 30.
Yeah.
So much room there, 30 is so young.
It's
like you're in your athletic prime. I think they say 32 for a professional fighter. They consider most athletic primes at 32.
It was, but I look back on it again. The 42 fights. That's a lot of fights.
Yeah.
Plus, I started when I was 9. I had a little over 100 amateur fights. There was a lot with that. I mean, for a while there, well before I retired, I was throwing it around. Retiring. I was one of them guys that I liked it and I loved it, but I also sometimes got tired of it.
Right.
I'm a very simple guy, and I don't care about the glam or the fame or any of that. I truly don't. Like even now with my podcast and what I'm doing with some of these other adventures, it's because I got bored and I want to have fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? And keep myself busy. And I've been fortunate to have what I have to be able to do all this on my own, and go out there and be around everybody. But, yeah, so when I was fighting, there was a lot of rumors around of the retirement, this, that. And I think the final icing on the cake was we were supposed to fight Andre Ward. And that's when Andre Ward ended up getting a shoulder surgery, and that fight fell through. And now I've been out in California training, or in Oxnard training for almost a year, which most fighters leave at the beginning of their career. When they don't have a family, when they're not making the money, that's their opportunity to try and go and make money. Not when you're 12 years into it, And so I went out there, and that kind of took a little bit from here as far as the sport, even though I loved it, and it was great training with Robert Garcia. I learned so much that I didn't think I could learn at that point in my career. And when that Andre Ward fight fell through, I was done. I mean, I rolled over. I never forget. I rolled over, told my wife, I said, I think I'm done. And she goes, what are you talking about? And I said, I think I'm retiring. And she started crying of tears of joy because she wanted me to be done even before that. She don't know the sport or what prime age is or not. And I hung them up. And over the years, as we talked earlier, here and there I would get the itch, and that could have been just going to the gym and hitting or doing a round on the pads. But I just never wanted to keep doing it. My health, believe it or not, is more important than anything else.
Well, that is something that every fighter has to consider. Like, when have they fought too much?
Yeah.
How do you make that decision?
When you lose it in here in that heart a little bit, it's a horrible hobby to have, especially at that high of a level.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not fighting guys that are getting off work at 3 o'clock, and
Right.
you know, you're fighting guys that are legit athletes and skilled professionals at fighting, and it's dangerous. Unfortunately, we've seen, and you know, when we're talking about this with me getting the itch earlier, there's a lot of things I take in consideration. Like I'm really into it, and I'm really debating on it, and I'm hitting the gym, working boxing. Then I see things like this Adonis Stevenson situation.
Yeah.
You know, and those are the things where I say I got to sit back and talk.
Explain to people what happened.
He got hit. It was a good fight. He's been fighting for years now. One of the most feared fighters also in boxing.
And he fought the guy we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. I can't pronounce his name. I don't want to chop it up.
Pull up the Russian gentleman's name. There's a way to say it. It's
better be, but I see him all the time.
Adonis
too.
Stevenson. These Russian cats have some crazy ass names, man.
They do. I know it's hard. You know, me being a guy involved in a sport and talking about it all the time too, how hard it is for me.
Yeah.
To get it down.
There's so many badass Russians these days. Okay. It's
Vozdyk.
Yeah, it's Gvozdyk, but it's Vozdyk.
Yeah.
You don't pronounce the G. Vozdyk. He's a
Alexander
beast
Vozdyk.
too, man. He's a beast.
So in that fight, again, Adonis Stevenson is a brutal puncher, devastating knockout puncher. He's been fighting all these years now also, and this is the part that's
He's
scary about it.
41, right?
Yes.
Isn't he 41?
Yes, and that's another situation, or, you know,
factor
where you might want to say, hey, I'm done.
Right.
You know, even before this happened. Unfortunately, I had to get to this point. But he's in there, and it's a fairly decent fight from what I was watching. And next thing you know, he goes down. Fight's over. And
he dropped Vozdyk at some point in the fight.
He did.
Yeah.
And he next thing you know, he ends up in a coma, you know, fighting for his life. The sport, you never know. That's the scary thing about it. You know,
Right.
you could get injured 2 weeks before the fight in sparring and have a little bleed that you would never know, you know, no signs of it. And then the next thing, you're in a coma.
Yeah.
And dead.
Well, I know that really fucked up Roy Jones Jr. when Jerry McClellan, who was his arch rival, you know, this was the guy that they thought one day he was going to fight, when McClellan was killing it at light heavyweight and Roy was 168-pound champion. And then, you know, to see McClellan now, you know, people who don't remember, man, McClellan was a fucking destroyer. He was so goddamn scary and so good. And he hit so hard. And he was the guy that, you know, he's a Kronk fighter, you know, in the vein of Tommy Hearns and all those other great Kronk fighters.
Absolutely.
And people looked at him like, man, one day that's going to be the fight, him and Roy Jones Jr. It was almost like it was inevitable.
Yeah.
It was like Canelo and Triple G or something.
I know, because everybody does the fantasy matchups, and they ask me if Pavlik versus McCallum, I'm going, what are you guys trying to do to me? I don't want that fight. You know what I mean? Because he did hit that hard.
Yeah.
He was a brutal guy.
Yeah, and then to see him when he fought Nigel Benn, same situation, lapse into that coma. We don't know how Adonis Stevenson is going to come out of this, but
We don't.
a lot of times when a guy does have a traumatic brain injury like that, like they're never the same again.
Yep, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, it could have happened. That could have been something 2 weeks earlier that was never detected, you know, or signs of it. So it's scary. It is.
So you take that into consideration, but you also have that itch.
Yeah, you know, and again, I'm 36. It's something that, again, it's going to be a process of sitting down and discussing. You know, there's going to
So would you say you're like 60% considering fighting again?
maybe a little more right now.
Ooh.
I know.
Ooh.
I know.
Wait, do you ever like go back and watch like highlight reels and then you start shadow boxing and getting itchy and really start thinking about it?
And it's weird because I'm in my gym and there's people lifting weights and I'm in the back. I got a couple of bags back there and you start hearing the bags popping and everybody, they're not used to seeing it. So everybody gets curious and they come back and you see them like peeking around the corner and watching me hit the bag, and then I get a little embarrassed. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna chill with it right now. So yeah, it's fun. It is. It's a thought again, and we'll see. But a lot of that plays in my mind because the one thing is it becomes very selfish too at a point. I got two young kids at home. You know, that's going to be 13 and 10. They're involved in sports and a lot of activities. They love me being around for it. And it don't take me having to fight a Usyk
Right.
for something to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we'll toss it around and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. That's a big consideration.
There's
right?
a lot of things to factor in on that.
Well, especially because you are busy now. And so what made you decide to do a podcast?
Actually,
I was excited when I heard you were doing that. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's get into the podcast world.
I am. I'm looking, I hear some of these guys commentating, and I say, I think I could do that.
Yeah, you could do that.
After listening. And the podcast, we're kind of throwing it around. Like I said, I got a handful of investments going on, and I pick and choose on what I want to do. And the podcast started off, hey, let's have fun. Let's throw this podcast on. We'll get some cheap equipment. We got a lot of followers on social media, so we'll do like the social media live, and then we'll also hook it to the YouTube. And we were doing it, and it started off for a little while there with no advertisement. It was kind of lonely, You're on, yeah, just if you feel like I'm talking into a mic and nobody's there,
right?
And then it started taking. It's doing fairly well right now too.
How many downloads you getting?
Man, right now, well, the social media is the biggest. We end up hitting. It reaches out. After the first episode, you got 2,000 people it reached and maybe like 400 views. And then as the days go on and the shares go on, you start seeing it reaches out to over like 20-some thousand people. And then you see, 8,000 views. So, and that's on social media. Mm-hmm. YouTube is the one I'm working for, really trying to push. And right now, sometimes we get up 113 views on there, and then sometimes I don't even want to mention how many views are on it. Again, it's a process with that also. I know that. I'm starting to learn that.
It's about consistency. That's the most important thing.
But I get out to these fights, and people know it. Who don't comment on the show, because we do it where it's live. The format of it is to have everybody involved because they like that. They get asked questions, and we're pretty much faces on the phone, reading the questions and answering it. And I think they like that. And it actually is kind of funny because we'll get some great guests on there. We had TJ Dillashaw, we had Mikey Garcia, Terrence Crawford on. I think you could bring back Joe Louis and put him on there, and people don't care about that. They want their questions answered, through the social media or through YouTube, and they kind of don't interact with the guests that you have on. So it's weird. I think I like the format of it, but at the same time, I wish people would be more involved with the guests that we have on. But for the most part, it's fun. It's different.
That kind of format is, boxing fans in particular, I should say, just combat sports fans in particular, they love to comment on things, love to get in on it. I mean, whenever there's a big fight, the social media just lights up, both with boxing and with MMA. They love the ability to go back and forth with a guy like you and get your questions answered and stuff like that. It's got to be huge.
Yep, and we tap in. We've had Matt Brown on, so we tap into the UFC. I personally don't want to because I don't want to make nobody mad. I don't know enough. I watch it, and
You're not going to make anybody mad.
I know. I'm saying that some of the fans, I watch it. I enjoy it. But the co-host, James Dominguez, he's really big into that, and he was the one that actually introduced me to Matt Brown. Mm-hmm. And so he knows. So on that show, that's where we worked, hand in hand together. Like, he's able to do more of the questions. And
I think it's fun when boxers don't know about MMA and they ask wonky questions.
I know. Yeah. That's how I feel with, vice versa. So.
I'm sure, man. Yeah. I'm sure. Like, when a big fight goes down and do you watch it and stream live?
We do. We tried. We actually tried on that.
That's a great idea for someone like you. We do a thing called the Fight Companion. We do it all the time where there's a UFC fight. We'll put it up on that screen. We'll have a bunch of guys in here, and we'll watch the fights and talk shit while the fights are going on, and people play it alongside the commentary. So it's like they're watching the fights with us.
Yeah. That's an idea. Thank you.
It's a great idea, yeah.
That absolutely is. And that's the whole thing. We're just looking for different...
Plus, if you go into the comments and start, having people ask questions, like, who do you think won that round? And then you go, this is why, I think Triple G won the round. This is why Canelo lost the round. Or this is why you could make an argument that Canelo won it. That kind of stuff that kind of interaction stuff.
It does, and the fans love that.
They love it.
Yep. They love that. And that's what we're looking at different ideas too, because you never stop learning. You can never stop expanding and doing things like that. So it's good. We get places, we get to these big fights, and people notice the show. Hey, I love your show. Even if they don't, they're saying that to me, Yeah, it was.
Even if they don't, they're saying it to me.
Yeah, they're saying
that's very, that's keen insight right there.
And it was cool, actually. What was that? The first Triple G Canelo fight. When I retired, I again stayed away from boxing. I went to that. I went there, and I was all about promoting my podcast, and it was kind of cool. I walked in there, and everybody went crazy in the media room, and I thought I was fighting again. After 5 years of being retired, I thought I was fighting. I mean, they were just asking, and I was trying to squeeze stuff in and tell them what I was doing. And then it was cool also because Bernard Hopkins was there, and I was already a year into the powerlifting. I was still about 230, and he came up and gave me a big hug, and it was awesome to be able to, after a fight and being able to go in there with him, to see how nice he was and how humble he was after that. He could have been cocky.
Right.
He could have walked past me and not said hi or recognized me at all.
Right.
And he was just really brought me in. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
What did he say to you after the fight? Did he tell you need to box like a black guy?
I think he did. After that fight, he could have told me everything he wanted in the road. He could have sat down for an hour with me and I wouldn't have remembered what he said. I was, everybody's seen the fight, so I need not to say much more on that. But a little bit of it because my trainer was there. It was, keep your head up. You're a hell of a fighter, and I'm experienced, and go back to the drawing board. Don't get too down on this and come back strong. He goes, you're a champ. And that was what he said.
I remember something where he said that you needed to learn how to fight like a black guy.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. I truly didn't, and maybe he might have said that in an interview after with somebody, and that's what people thought.
Right,
but
maybe.
I know he didn't say it in the fight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of his best performances. I mean, he had so many great performances late in his career. The Tito Trinidad fight in particular, because nobody thought he was going to win that fight. He was a big underdog in that fight. Trinidad was an up and coming, rising Puerto Rican superstar. Was fucking everybody up, and Bernard put on a show.
I thought, I actually had Hopkins in that fight though because he was just bigger. The big guy, middleweight. Trinidad's moving up, and there was a lot of good middleweights that I didn't think Trinidad was going to be. I think Trinidad was an amazing fighter, but I think his great days were at 147.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I was. He was a big puncher, though. He was a big puncher even up into light heavyweight. Even into middleweight. But his style was almost tailor-made for Bernard. Bernard was so clever and such a good counter fighter and so good defensively. He didn't really open up. He didn't leave many openings.
That goes back to the footwork that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. You notice when he fought that fight, even when he fought me, but Trinidad and other guys, when they go to throw a punch, he'd take that one step in and kind of suffocate the punch, especially if it was a straight right hand. Or then he would take that step and he would throw that overhand right and catch you with it. So he was really good at just putting that foot, not moving around much, putting it in the right spot to hit you and counter you. And he did that. Trinidad was probably one of the best technically sound fighters ever, if you actually watch him, the way he threw his punches. He never made mistakes on that part of it. But I think he needed a little bit more, change it up a little different with Bernard Hopkins in order to have even made that fight kind of close.
One of the most ridiculous Trinidad fights ever. Remember when he fought Ricardo Mayorga and Mayorga let him punch him in the face?
Yeah.
He just put his hands down, go ahead. And Trinidad teed off. Yeah. I think he hit him with 2 left hooks on the chin.
Mayorga was crazy.
He was so crazy.
Yeah, that was a crazy dude.
He would smoke cigarettes in between rounds and shit.
I don't even know if I could believe that. I don't know if that was a show and he did that when the cameras were on because he was able to go a handful of rounds without getting tired.
Yeah.
Now, I know if you smoke a cigarette, man, that's going to take the wind out of you.
Yeah, but, I know fighters that smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Schilling, who's a world-class kickboxer, top of the food chain, world champion kickboxer, smokes cigarettes.
Well,
crazy fucker.
Yeah, I chewed most of my career.
That's different, though, right?
It is. Nicotine restricts the oxygen in the blood, and it's not good for boxers or anybody lifting weights.
Nicotine does? Regular, chewing tobacco restricts oxygen?
It restricts the oxygen in the blood.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, can you pull it up? Just make sure.
It's a stimulant, though. It's actually for your brain. People say a lot of folks. I actually bought some. I never tried it, but I bought some nicotine gum to try to see if I would write on it, if it would help me writing. Because apparently it works as a nootropic, as a cognitive enhancer. Nicotine is actually an effective cognitive enhancer.
I didn't know that. Maybe how much you take of it, the quantity.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know that it affects your, because it's a stimulant. I didn't know that it restricts the oxygen in your blood. That's pretty.
Yeah, from what I heard, and chew actually more so than cigarettes because of the amount of nicotine and how it gets into the stream faster. But to me, it was never. I didn't chew the day of the fight.
Right.
And I believe after so many hours, 6 to 8 or 10 hours, it's out. So, but either or, it didn't affect me.
That stuff's so nasty.
Because I was able to run, 3 miles in 19 some minutes, and 5 miles in 30 minutes, and I was chewing it, so it never really affected me.
Maybe it did, but just you were in such good shape. It was barely.
No, smoking on the other hand, lungs filling them. It is horrible. And but after I retired, and the itch wasn't there for like a year, I wanted to give the gums a break, and I decided, well, you know what, I'll smoke. And I quit smoking shortly.
You started smoking cigarettes after you retired?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I didn't want to start them when I was fighting.
Who the fuck starts at 30?
I was switching out because it was nicotine.
Here it is: smokeless tobacco, and health risks. The amount of nicotine in the bloodstream after using smokeless tobacco may be higher than that of a cigarette smoker. Okay, what does it say about oxygen, though?
That's where it was going. This puts it all together. The nicotine basically is taking the place of the oxygen, I think, is what the other. There's another. Saying? It's a less scientific paper, but
nicotine stays in the bloodstream longer with smokeless tobacco than cigarettes, oral tobacco.
Which
28
is why
chemicals.
It causes heart disease.
Yeah. Okay. It's not a safe alternative, folks. That's what it's saying. All right.
Yeah, we're
Either
learning.
way. Either way, bad for you. But you started smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, because not because
were you a smoking when you're drinking kind of guy? Is that what it was?
No, it was because I liked the nicotine.
Oh.
And I chewed, and I wanted to give the gums a break, the lips a break, and I smoked, so that way I didn't have to chew. And doing the lifting and powerlifting, I went over and I think I got 7 squats and I couldn't breathe.
Jesus.
And I said, you know what, this is a shame.
How long have you been smoking for?
I was only 8 months. 7 months. That's long enough on it, And I said, you know what? Because I had no plans coming back to the ring. I didn't. So I was done. And I got to seven reps into the squat, and I was like, this is sad. I was a former, world class athlete, so I was done right after that day. Put the cigarettes back.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm sad you started it up, but glad you figured out to let it go.
Yes.
That's a weird choice though. At 30.
Yeah.
To start smoking.
It's nicotine, and that's what a lot of people do when they try to quit the chewing. They go over to the smoking.
Don't they just go to the gum usually?
You could do that too, but some people just like it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, it does juice you up. Tony Hinchcliffe smokes cigarettes. He doesn't anymore, but he used to. And a couple of times I took a cigarette from him and smoked it before I went on stage. Mm-hmm. And he's like, dude, you're going to get hooked. He was worried about me. You're going to get hooked. I'm like, I'm not going to get hooked.
Yeah.
I'm just going to smoke this one cigarette. I'm not going to go buy a pack. But people are so scared of it.
Yeah. Well, I see why, though.
Yeah.
Especially, again, as I'm mentioning, I'm over here. I used to be able to do all that, and then I do 7 reps on a squat, and I'm having a hard time breathing, and I racked it. Now, granted, squats are hard, though. I mean, you're going to – if you're depending on the weight and how many reps you're doing, it's a different type of exercise, but, I was done after that, so.
You had a drinking thing for a while, too, huh?
Yeah.
That's one that gets a lot of fighters.
Yeah, it does. But it's one that, on that it ticks me off and it don't.
It ticks you off?
Yeah.
How so?
A lot of it ran through the hometown, and the troubles that I got in with it, TMZ, stuff like that. The incidents that happened were petty, small, and if it wasn't in Youngstown, it would have never made news. Stuff that kind of happens.
Like what kind of shit?
No, BB guns and a 4-wheeler.
You had a BB gun?
Yeah, I shot a kid. We were playing around. I was taking care of him, and this is the truth of the story. Taking care of him. I was putting a big lake in my backyard, and I got the country boy. I mean, I went out and rented 2 excavators and some bobcats and started putting the pond in. This this guy I was helping out, he knows how to run the excavators. So he needed work. He had no money. I was taking care of him and his kids over at the house. He's working. So long story short, after about 5 days, I come home and he's in the pond or lake just in his underwear playing around. I grabbed the BB gun. I'm joking around with him, you know, because we were shooting targets for a couple of days in between working. I shoot him in the arm. 41 years old at the time too, so it wasn't a kid. He gets out, he's like, you shot me, and he's crying about it and everything else. And next thing you know, he's cool though. He gets out and it's on Facebook and he's giggling, laughing about it. And he stays at my house that night. His kids come over, I'm feeding them, we're having cookouts the next day. And little things that I don't know that I'm glad that I'm not involved in no more, or I don't put myself in that situation. So he stays for 2 days after that at my house. And his uncle comes there, who worked for the local sheriff's department, and goes, hey, is so-and-so here? And I said, yeah, he was. I haven't seen him, though. And he goes, okay, hey, listen. He goes, Kelly, I'm coming here to tell you so that way the news, the media, everything else don't come. He has a warrant out for his arrest. And tell him, you know, if he comes back, call us. So he leaves. I go walking through the house, and Brian comes down the steps, and I was like, dude, you got to get the hell out of here. I was like, I didn't know anything of this. You having a warrant, blah, blah, blah. He goes over and passes out on my couch. I call his uncle. Hey, you want him? He's here. So he finds out. He ends up running out of the house, and they catch him, you know, that night or whatever. They take him in. He does 2 months in the county jail, gets out, takes his uniform off, walks over to the sheriff's department and presses charges.
On you?
Yes.
For shooting with a BB gun?
Yes. And a buddy of mine who was there when it happened was videoing it. His girlfriend's laughing in the background, you know, when it happened. It was just a video of it happening. He sold it to TMZ. And next thing you know, I end up getting served or whatnot. My attorney calls me also and says, hey, go down, turn yourself in. You know, it's a federal assault charge.
Jesus, BB gun's a federal assault charge?
Yes, yeah. And that was it. And again, it was all over money. It was a drawn-out case, supposed to have been beat. And it turned to that over a BB gun with a guy, and he said it was an assault. So
How much was he trying to get from you?
He got $9,000. And it was supposed to, when he filed the civil suit a couple months into this, the criminal charges are supposed to be dropped at that point because the prosecutor and everybody knew that it was all about money. So they were going to drop the criminal charge. They never did. And it goes back in Youngstown. You know, I was out in the public eye, and some of the people, they had it out. They have.
For people to understand how big a star you are in Youngstown, I mean, I remember at the time, I remember reading stories, seeing news clips. I mean, Youngstown's not a big place. And other than Ray Boom Boom Mancini's not a whole lot of like really famous people, especially fighters that come out of Youngstown. But you were a fucking giant celebrity in that town.
Yeah. And that was kind of my bad on that. That's where I take the fault. You know?
It's probably hard for you to recognize. You're not even 30 years old.
Yeah.
All this shit is going on.
Yeah, and it's true, and I'm not looking for that as an excuse, you know, when I say it, but it is true. I looked at myself as everybody else.
Right.
I think that was the issue.
You hadn't recognized yet that you're in some weird place where you have to watch what you're doing.
I felt like if I go to the bar and somebody goes, boy, Kelly Pavlik's been here 3 days. He's a lush. Yeah. My argument was, I got every right to be here just like you do. Matter of fact, I have more of a right. You know, I'm retired. I've got my money put away. You're probably drinking your, you know, weekly pay away. That was my
thought process
of that. And it probably wasn't right, you know, because it comes down to is you are a big fish in a little pond, and it's a small city. And I think that by being out there, I brought a lot on myself because of that. It is what it is. Unfortunately, as an athlete, you can't do that. And so that happened over a period of time, and the word got around, and a lot of anger. You know, you had some jealous, some angry, some who just didn't like me.
Well, also just so much fun for them to gossip.
Yeah, exactly. Because what else is really not beating up Youngstown? I love it. It made me who I am. But if you really look up Youngstown, there ain't a lot to talk about. Besides the fact that we do put out the most NFL players per capita.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Youngstown does. Why is that, you think?
I don't know.
Savages.
There's some badass dudes from Youngstown, and it is. And I don't know why. I mean, even the boxing part of it, if you truly break down 5 world champs from such a small city in 36 years, as it came out.
Who are the other world champs besides Ray Boom
Mancini, Harry Arroyo.
Oh,
Harry Arroyo actually held the
Wow.
title in the same weight class around the same exact time that Mancini did. You had Jeff Lampkin, Greg Richardson, and then you had a handful of other guys like Roland Cummings and fighters out there that were making noise out of Youngstown. A guy, Ken Signorani, who fought Chavez and Camacho out of Youngstown. But being there like that, it brought a lot of attention, and people wanted, and there was a lot of angry people.
Was it weird growing up there and then becoming a famous guy there?
Yeah, it is. Because again, you don't. People tell you, hey, when you get to that level, when you win the world title, shit's gonna change, man. And you're going, yeah, okay. You think you know, right? Like you're going, yeah, I got what you're saying. And then it happens, and you win it, and it's so true when they say overnight. Like, you're not you no more. Like you can't be yourself no more. It's
right.
Everything changes, and it comes down to the person. Even though if you don't want to change and you like living your life the way you did 2 days ago, unfortunately, you can't. And it's hard, and it's something that you got to learn how to deal with.
Yeah,
and that wasn't my choice, though. You know what I mean by that? My choice wasn't to go out and act like a jackaloon. My choice was kind of just be me, though.
Right.
And
you just did what you wanted to do.
I did.
And then it just became a big issue because you were a famous guy.
Yes. And another issue on top of that came, too, was where I could actually take the blame for this, and I honestly can. A lot of it came down to, and everybody's different, so I'm speaking for myself. I trained my ass off when I trained. I was a 6-7 hours a day type guy, and that's what got me to throw as many punches as I did around, and I was in great shape for every fight. I sacrificed a lot of things. I gave up a lot, even starting from high school, being in the amateurs and just turning pro right out of high school. I missed a lot of things. My mentality was when, I had time, I was going to live. I was going to live like my friends who were 19, 20, 21, 24. And that was the process of it. I do believe, though, at a point, especially after I retired, that it got a little
out of hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not going to be the person to sit here and say it didn't.
Right.
It did. I'm not naive enough to say that.
Well, you know better than anybody, but the rumors were always that you were drinking a lot, and that was affecting your career.
It may have, to some point. I don't think it did. People use the fact that Hopkins beat me, and that was the reason, and that's why I retired so young. And it wasn't. It truly wasn't. Maybe some of the stuff I was doing, especially as I got older, in between fights, the drinking, I think that may have hurt a little bit. I don't think it was enough to make any significant changes in my career, to be honest with you. But who knows with that? If I didn't, we'll never know. Again, but I lived up, and do I got anything to regret about it? No.
Do you still live in Youngstown?
Yeah, on the outside in the suburbs,
Is it, it's got to be strange to have grown up there, been a child there, and then become an internationally famous world champion boxer and celebrity and still stay there.
Yeah.
The world changes, and you're still Kelly Pavlik.
And I think after I retired, that's where some of the mistakes have come to, where I should have gotten out. Maybe come out here to California or go to a New York.
Come on out, Kelly.
Yeah, right. We're working on it.
Plenty of room.
Yeah, I just had that last night with my manager, Mark. He was telling me.
What are they talking about you doing out here? Can you say?
He's throwing around ideas also. Again, we were talking about what we had talked about earlier with the fight coming back. We talked about the Dancing with the Stars things. That's some ideas. He's looking into also sponsorships. Again, Mark is got a lot of connects. He's in that industry.
Boxing's in an interesting place right now, and I was really bummed out that HBO canceled their boxing series. I mean, after how many years?
43 years?
Something crazy like that. I mean, they put on some of the all-time great classic fights. And, I think Jim Lampley, one of the best commentators of all time. I loved hearing Roy Jones Jr. do it, and Andre Ward, and, Max Kellerman was amazing. I just can't believe that it's over. I mean, I don't know. I guess it wasn't profitable for them, or they just decided to get out of the business. I really don't understand it.
I don't believe that it's going to be gone for long.
From HBO?
For some reason. I think, Lampley still has the fight game on there, and they're doing that. I heard rumors of maybe Roy Jones taking it over or buying it out, or somebody buying. The big issue, I think, what happens into the HBO, and Showtime is doing very well right now.
Yes,
and I don't know
great.
and I'm not sure if they'll ever fall into the situation that HBO did, but you have these apps coming out now, ESPN Plus, DAZN, DAZN, and again, like what they just had that signing with Canelo, how big that was, the richest athlete, the biggest contract.
It's like $650 million or something.
I thought it was 365, right? And then I think there was something.
Canelo's, how much money? It was something.
I think it was 365 million, but there was also incentives and everything else with that. So
365.
Yeah,
I knew there was a 6 in there. That's a lot of fucking money.
Yes, it is, for I think 11 fights or whatever it was.
It's crazy.
And so again, that's where these people are coming to this ESPN Plus. They can watch these fights now.
Yeah.
On these for $7.99, $9.99. DAZN has the UFC or MMA fight, or I think it's Bellator fights, whatever on there.
It is nice that ESPN's putting on a lot of fights now.
Exactly.
And they also now have a deal with the UFC. So into 2019 now, the first UFC event is going to be January 19th, which is TJ Dillashaw versus Henry Cejudo for the flyweight title. And they're really putting on some great fights on ESPN. It's just exciting to see MMA being recognized by ESPN, but it's exciting to see ESPN put like Lomachenko fights on.
Exactly, because ESPN used to be kind of more so the prospects.
Yeah.
The Friday night fights were the up-and-coming guys, and they were putting that on. And that was great for the prospects. I think they need to actually keep doing that, maybe on a different night. But now they're putting the Lomachenkos and they're putting the world-class fighters on ESPN.
Was Terrence Crawford's last fight on ESPN?
I believe it was.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that app, that ESPN Plus, like I'm saying, so there's more accessibility to that, and people would rather pay that than order the $69 or $89 or $100 pay-per-view fights.
Right, $7 a month is nice.
It is.
Yeah. So. I mean, with the UFC has UFC Fight Pass, and they have events just constantly.
Yeah.
Same sort of deal.
And that's great for that. It is, because it's an easier route, outlet for it.
Yeah, and you can watch on your phone on a train.
Exactly.
It's like the world's changing, and now also I love the fact you could stream it from your phone right to your television.
If you got a smart TV, you can watch it. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was even thinking about that at my gym, because I know how it is with business and ordering pay-per-view fights. There was actually a funny story about that in Youngstown with that too, where everybody thought it was my fault. But you could get that. I could have 40 people there on a big fight night, UFC fight night or a boxing fight night, and I could just put that phone right up to the smart TV and we could watch it on there instead of paying.
Don't say this. Don't say this right now. They're going to come get you.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to do that. This is all hypothetical. This will never happen. You're not going to do that, right?
I thought it was legal.
Good.
Okay, no.
It might be legal.
Yeah.
Well, the UFC's gone after people in the past for illegally streaming things and then showing them on television.
Oh, well, I thought if you had the app.
I don't know how it works.
To be honest.
I think it's when you're showing it in a business.
Because I know what I was talking about earlier with the Youngstown thing that happened. It was kind of funny was they were getting the fights, the pay-per-view fights, and some of the businesses were illegally getting it, and they all got fined. There were fines going around, and people were actually coming to me like I had something to do with it. They were like, "I can't believe you could do that. You should have to pay us like $3,000 for the fine that we got."
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm going,
you?
Yes. I start giggling. I'm going. Last thing on my mind was I was worried about was who was ordering fights in Youngstown.
Yeah.
When I'm here in Atlantic City or Vegas right now, fighting, getting ready, trying to make weight, and doing the interviews and the press conference and everything else.
What kind of asshole says that you should have to
Yeah,
pay?
they kind of came out, and one actually, my brother was doing going to get ads for the program from places, and they're like, I'm not putting an ad in. It cost me $3,000.
No, you cost you.
Yeah,
You fucking pirate.
I
mateys.
and I'm sure, and I'm not just using that with the Youngstown. That would have happened anywhere, small area. So.
Well, illegal streaming, if they don't do something about it, man, it would run rampant. I just don't know what the thing to do that's correct is. I've seen some outrageous fines. I don't know,
And as we just what happened earlier, we don't know what's legal and what's not either anymore with all the different internet stuff and apps that you have and with the smart TVs.
With TVs, yeah. Yeah, I mean, or, can you stream it on your phone and have a bunch of people look over your shoulder?
Yeah.
How's that work?
Or if you have a smart TV, though.
If you have it on your phone and then, 20 of your friends come over and they're behind you.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, man, everybody give me $1.
Yeah.
You get in trouble for that? How's that work?
Or that could be a great idea.
It's not the worst idea. But, yeah, how does that work? Because with Apple TV, anything you're watching, you can watch a YouTube video and you just stream it to that TV with a quick swipe and a press. Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the move for them is to make it easily accessible. Like WWE was the first one to figure that out, right? They figured out how to you get like a monthly subscription and you get to watch all the events. And then the UFC did that with Fight Pass and ESPN Plus doing this, and
WWE knows how to make the money, as we could all see.
For sure.
I think what's also great is some of these inside stations, local stations and inside putting these fights on also, like they used to do back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
The ABC fights and what was it, CBS?
Wide World of Sports, and all that shit.
And doing that again. Why wouldn't you? It's great for the sport, and that's how you get people involved back in it. It's almost like almost every other generation or every other decade, there's that group of fighters that come out. Like Ali, Frazier, guys like that. Then you had like the Tyson, Holyfield, Riddick Bowe. But also at that time, it was easy and it was accessible to watch all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, it's not. And even the apps, which I think is great. You get a lot of guys in their 40s and 50s who don't want to have to watch an app on their TV. So I think if they start bringing back just a little more variety of shows or something.
Well, it seems like, especially with boxing right now, the talent level is extremely high. I mean, it is with MMA as well, but I mean, with boxing, it seems to be on an upswing. And it also seems like people are really interested in some of these big rivalries, like Triple G and Canelo. That was two amazing fights. I thought the first one was a robbery. I thought that Triple G won the first one, but the second one...
I hope they don't fight again.
Really?
Yeah.
Why's that?
Because when you get a guy that hits as hard as Triple G does, and you get a guy that's as good as Canelo, and they're in there, even though they're not getting dropped and they're not getting knocked out, them type of fights take a lot out of you. They really do, and they shared a lot in those two fights. And we don't know even right now if the next fight or the fight after that Canelo starts showing some of the effects from those first two fights.
You think so?
Yeah, you get a guy that hits two guys that hit that hard, and they're in there fighting like that. Eventually, it does drain you a little bit, and that will catch up. I think a third fight will shorten the career of Canelo. I'm not going to say Triple G because Triple G is my age now, and I have a feeling that his might be getting short here pretty soon anyways, just due to age. But Canelo, I mean, those are brutal fights.
They were brutal fights. Did you think that some people thought that Triple G won the second fight as well? I thought it was a much closer fight than the first fight. But did you think that Canelo or Triple G, I think Canelo showed some improvement, but it's also possible that Triple G might have slowed down a little bit.
I think so. The first fight I had at 9-3 for Triple G. That's how I scored it.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and I gave the first 3 rounds to Canelo, and then I had it every round after for Triple G. This fight, I thought Canelo won. Close fight, and if you gave it to Triple G, I wouldn't have screamed robbery.
Right. I think Teddy was saying that he thought that Triple G won, but I felt like it's a pretty close fight. But certainly Canelo showed much improvement.
He did, and he fought a better fight. The first half of the fight, I gave Canelo a lot of rounds because I thought he controlled the fight with the body shots. Mm-hmm. Everybody thought Triple G was controlling it with the jab, But the reason why Triple G wasn't using his size and strength was was using his jab was because of the body shots that Canelo was landing. I mean, they were brutal. And I just thought Canelo dictated the pace of those first couple rounds. I thought he won enough of the early rounds. And obviously, Triple G won most of the second half of the fight. But I thought it was a little too late, and I had Canelo up by a round or two.
Yeah, it's just one. Those are two fighters that really sort of epitomize what people like to see when they like to see like these classic rivalries, right? Like a guy like Triple G who's just forward pressure, constant throwing bombs, knockout puncher. A guy like Canelo who's just one of those classic Mexican fighters that has incredible heart, wants to fight the best of the best, really takes it into
like he did
who
in the
he
first
is.
fight.
Yeah.
Stay on the ropes with Triple G and let him use that power to beat your organs. And he's one of those type, I was sitting there, I'm not one to talk. I kind of like getting in and getting involved myself with guys, especially like with Miranda, who I personally believe hit harder than Triple G.
Really?
But and I was a guy, but that was my strategy. As for Canelo, that really wasn't a great strategy. I didn't lay on the ropes and let Miranda.
Do you think he just didn't know what to expect until he was in there with Triple G?
It could have been because everything changes. Like I think Mike Tyson said it. Everybody's got a game plan until they get hit. He might have got touched, like I said, even with the Tenshin and that Mayweather fight, and the whole brain might have just started going 1,000 miles an hour trying to figure out, okay, like this ain't going to probably work tonight with this guy because he's a lot stronger than I expected. Right. And he was just trying to maybe tire him out. The only issue is now when you're on the ropes like that and you're getting hit by a guy that hits that hard in the delts, in the elbow, in the forearms, and to the body. And then you're tightening up and you're tensing up really hard and you're cutting the oxygen off to the blood. It tires you out quicker and it wears you down, more than what he was doing in the middle of the ring by pop shotting and
right.
counter punching. And he could have dictated how fast he wanted, how much he wanted to punch, how hard he wanted to punch.
Yeah, we certainly made some big improvements in that second fight.
Yeah.
Do you you really don't want to see them fight a third time?
I truly don't. I mean, if it happens, I'm going to watch it.
But they're going to fight, right? I mean, Canelo's obviously going to fight some people, and Triple G's obviously going to continue fighting.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how long Triple G's going to fight because, as you mentioned, and I agree with you, I think he's starting to – his age is showing up a little bit with him.
Well, I mean, he got avoided by a lot of people, and when he had a pay-per-view a couple of years back that only got 150,000 buys. And I remember thinking, that is a damn shame.
It is.
It's a damn shame that people don't realize that this is absolutely one of the best fighters ever.
I was surprised by that, too, because I think he's a lot more popular than what those numbers showed.
I didn't get it. I don't understand. I mean, maybe it's because they didn't think the fight was competitive. Maybe I don't know what it was. But it seemed like...
I just think, personally, myself, there's a lot of fights out there for Canelo. He just went up to 168.
Yeah. I'm
not a big fan of that. Do
you think he's too small for 68?
I do, especially if you get in with the right fighter.
Right.
I truly do believe that. Everybody.
How tall is he? Is he 5'10"?
Yeah, 5'9", 5'10". But with boxing or like football, when you see the height, you always got to take an inch and a half off too. So.
Oh, did they lie?
Yeah, they had me listed 6'3". I'm right under 6'2" by like that much. So it's kind of like the football program in high school.
Right.
But Canelo, I think that there's guys out there staying at 68 is kind of dangerous. I think he's right now talented enough to keep good fights out there. Yeah, but it's a little dangerous in my opinion.
Who do you think at 68 could cause problems for him?
You got even the guys like Zurdo, Benavidez. Those are dangerous fights. Just them two guys right there, I would have to take. Not so much overall skill wise, just size and being at that weight. And you got guys coming down like Bivol. From 175 to 168, I think that his better days are going to be at 160. Do
you think does he have a hard time making 60, or did he just have an opportunity to fight 68 and he took it?
I think it's the trophies.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him for that either. He had the right fight to go up to 168, so get another weight division under his belt.
Yeah, he was tuning that dude up.
And I think that'll be three? No, he's a weight class champ.
Yeah.
And so that looks good on paper when you retire.
Yeah.
It does. I would have done it if I could have, if there was the right fights out there. But
when he fought Mayweather made him cut down to 52? Was it something like that?
I think they were at a catch weight around that.
Yeah. That fight was, to me, well, it was a good learning experience for him to be in there with a guy who's as slick as Floyd is, but also a good learning experience that you're not supposed to suck that much weight out of your body. Just he didn't have the fire.
No, even though you have 24 hours or however long it is to try to rehydrate, that's never enough time to recoup.
Yeah.
It's not. So your thing is you're just hoping your opponent's going through the same thing that you are. You know, that's what it comes down to.
What I do like about boxing that is missing in MMA is more weight classes. I really think that, and that's one of the things that people have a problem with in boxing. They think there's too many weight classes. I don't agree with that. I think if anything, there's too many world champions. I think it's ridiculous that in any organization that one guy could be a WBC world champion, the other guy could be a WA, there's an IBF, there's a WBO. I mean, like, that's crazy. It's crazy to have that many world champions. It should be a world champion. But how do you decide what organization is the real sanctioning body?
Well, you just need one sanctioning body. I don't know how you would do that either because it's all money. You know what I mean?
They're all so corrupt.
Yeah, it's all money,
You know?
and it's hard to do that. I see your point on that a little bit. And then I also look at, like, you got so many guys that are so good.
Yeah.
And boxing is a short window. So, like, how long can you stay undefeated till you finally get that chance to fight the top guy, the top dog?
Mm-hmm.
And anything can happen in boxing, too. You know, I kind of like maybe knocking down to 3, but I think when you have the different weight classes, now you got 4 people. Just say one person has each belt. You got 4 world champs. Mm-hmm. Now you're looking at these 4 guys, and you can start taking these prospects and start saying, this would be an interesting fight with this guy and this guy. And then I do believe that they should make happen one undisputed champ.
Yeah, I believe so, too. I think that should happen in every weight class.
Yep, they should have a fight off or a box off, and the 4 champions, or, you know, maybe that way, keep the prospects in line and have the 4 champions fight off. Then you know who's the undisputed champion, and then your prospects get their shot. You know,
it just seems weird to have more than one world champion. You're either the world champ. It's like, how many guys won the Super Bowl this year? How many teams?
Yeah.
One.
One.
It should be one.
Yeah.
You can't have multiple world champions. Like when Anthony Joshua is walking around as a heavyweight champion, but also Deontay Wilder is walking around as a heavyweight champion. Like, what? What is this? Are you the heavyweight champion, or are you the champion of an organization?
That falls into, like, kind of again what we were talking about earlier with the Jermaine Taylor thing when he vacated the belts. Okay.
Right. Yeah, in my mind, you won the unified title.
Unified or universal, recognizable middleweight champ.
The ring middleweight title.
Because where does the lineal begin? When does it not? And I had the ring title.
Right.
So usually, in most cases, the ring title is undisputed or lineal champ. So in other words, the champ of that weight class.
Right.
You know, and for the most part, you know who is the champion of a weight class.
Right. Well, Ring Magazine's title is almost as valuable as anybody else.
It is. That's one, and that's the one that I really showcase when I show people my case. You know,
well, it's so classic too, with like the stripes and the.
I think Rocky really did a lot for that belt too.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
I do.
That's true. Yeah. Well, it's a classy looking belt, you know, and everybody else has got the big ones with the leather and the strap. Like the Ring Magazine's a nice one.
Yep. I wanted the belts. You know, I didn't want to pay the sanctioning fees for all 4 of the belts, but I still wanted the IBF and the WBA, and you know, to put in the trophy case. But unfortunately, a lot of them fights fell through.
When you were coming up, when you were a kid and you were watching boxing, were you a Hagler fan?
I was a Hagler fan, but you know, that's another one that's actually weird with me. Even having guys like Mancini and Arroyo from Youngstown, and guys like that, I'd never really had this one person that I was like, or a poster in my bedroom, you know, like De La Hoya or something.
You never had one guy that like you emulated or you really looked up to?
I emulated everybody. And I think that's what helped me get as far as I did in my career. I mean, even when I was 16, I could watch a 9-year-old sparring and see him do something cool and hit a guy, and I'd be like, damn, you know, I'm going to try that. That actually might work. I followed it, and I was just a big fan of the sport overall. Of course, I had guys that like Gotti because of his style coming up, and De La Hoya. Sugar Ray Leonard, in my opinion, is probably one of the best fighters pound for pound of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's arguable. I mean, if somebody says Mayweather, I'm not going to say...
He's one of the best for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to say you're stupid for having a number one. It's a great debate. But yeah, so I followed it more as a fan. You know, and I watched, and I took from this person, I took from that person. We had, as I mentioned, we had some prospects in the amateurs coming up that trained in the same gym, and I would kind of copy their style, you know, coming up. So I was always trying to keep learning. Like I even doing and working out now. I find different things that work, you know, and what don't work. And that's what I did as far as boxing. I just watched guys. Here and there I would copy for like 2 days, De La Hoya style. You know, he'd be there with the hands up and picking them off with the hands. I'd go in sparring. I didn't try it in the fight. I did it in sparring. And I would copy his style a little bit to see how it works or how I could add it to my arsenal. So...
Yeah, I was just asking about Hagler because he's sort of the quintessential middleweight champion. You know, there's like a few guys that you look back in the day and you look at, you know, who were just iconic middleweight champions.
And your guys in your late 40s and 50s, okay, they'll argue with you that he was the best middleweight of all time.
He certainly was one of them.
Yeah, and you'll have your guys that, you know, have Hopkins.
Certainly one of them
That's
too.
what I'm saying. Like even the heavyweights, you got your olders. Oh, Muhammad Ali was the best. Then you have your guys in the early 40s tell you that to Mike Tyson. So it's kind of like whoever grew up on that.
Yeah.
Me personally, you got to get past that because again, that becomes biased, and everybody's going to kind of go with what they grew up with. But there was a lot of greats.
Sure. Well, people sleep on Lennox Lewis.
He was
You know, when you talk about the greats, all-time great heavyweight boxers, like how the fuck do you not include Lennox Lewis in the discussion? The size, the power. Yeah.
But how do you not put Evander Holyfield?
You do.
You
know, have to.
The guy that beat the Tyson, the crazy.
Riddick Bowe.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, way smaller than Riddick Bowe.
That was a hell of an era of heavyweights right there. Yeah.
Crazy era. Yeah, it was the 90s, right?
Yep. And those are the ones when you say heavyweight division, those were the fighters.
Yeah.
You know, but it's how long ago was that now?
Quite a long time.
Yeah, 30-some years, and so it don't come around enough.
Well, what I'm hoping is more emerging talent in the heavyweight division will sort of take a little bit of this spotlight that you're seeing now that's going on Fury and Wilder and Joshua, and I'd like to see, and a little bit of Ortiz. I'd like to see more guys get in the mix there and have it be like it used to be back then, where there are a bunch of like really exciting contenders.
Yeah.
And you look forward to these big fights because right now there's like 4 guys, 5, 6 guys at most that are going to fight each other.
Exactly. And, you know, hopefully what it does is it gets these other bigger guys, these athletic athletes and skilled athletes, and hopefully it brings them into the boxing again. Did I remember this right? Is David Tua making a comeback? I hope not. Seriously.
How old is he?
Shit, he got to be mid-40s.
Dude, he was 46?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe he's not. Did I make that up that he's making a comeback?
I'm looking.
He was a fucking monster.
You know,
in his
unfortunately, in the heavyweight division, he probably could get away with it at 46.
He might be able to. He was a goddamn monster.
Yeah. Well, he was short. He was a hard guy to fight. He was one of them guys that low to the ground, thick, big legs, no neck.
Brutal power.
Yeah. Big left hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of them guys you didn't want to fight, even if you were Lennox Lewis's height.
Remember when he knocked out John Ruiz?
Yeah.
Like, whoo.
It was brutal.
Yeah, no, he was an animal, man. And he could take a shot, too. Remember when he fought Ike Beabuchi? He was the only guy to go the distance with a Beabuchi.
That was another big.
He was a scary motherfucker.
Guy. Yeah.
And what did he went to jail for like sexual assault or something crazy like that. He was in jail for a long time.
We were just talking about another guy that kind of reminded me of them, Samuel Peters. Another
oh yeah,
no neck,
Tank.
Just thick. Yeah, he was my height. Actually, I trained with him a little bit out at Top Ranks gym when we were fighting. He was actually a really cool guy, you know, and he was a big fan of mine too. So it was kind of neat to be able to share it out with him and talk with him before we started training.
That's cool. That's cool. Beabuchi, I want to say that he's getting out soon. He was in jail for a long time. And apparently there was some article that I read a couple of years back that he was planning on making a comeback when he gets released. But again, he's deep into his 40s as well.
Yeah, and it's hard to make a comeback. And no matter if it's heavyweight or not, at that level, after being out, I tell people all the time with even young kids that are 21 and 22, when sometimes these promoters freeze their contract or there's a dispute going on and they sit out 2 years, sometimes they may not ever come back fully from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
Especially at that high of a level, in boxing.
Did Mikey Garcia have a contract dispute for a long time?
Yeah, and I was concerned about that when he came back. I was concerned about how much damage that time off could have done.
How long was his contract dispute for?
I think it was 2 years he didn't fight. Over
God.
2 years.
For a top-level fighter like him, that's a disastrous event.
It is. And, but Mikey, on the other hand, he's a genius in the ring, and he has that going for him, and he also could fight.
Yeah.
As he's been doing it since he was so young, and being in a family. I think the kid came out the womb with boxing gloves on. So
there's so many good fights to be made right now. It's just it's a really exciting time. It's just a really, really exciting time, which is, and another reason why I'm bummed out that HBO got out of the game.
Yeah. I would like to see HBO come back. I mean, there's talks of it, and I think it would be great for the sport again if it came back as big as it did. Now, don't get me wrong. Towards the end, it was kind of hard to watch with some of the fights they had on, in my opinion.
Way?
They just weren't interesting. They weren't big fights. And
do you think that was a funding thing? Like they didn't have enough of a budget?
That, or I think they knew longer that they
were on the way out.
Yeah, and saved the money. I don't know how many subscriptions they lost from that. I don't know if it hurt or what. But that's why I say if they're keeping the fight game open and they're showing that, I see it coming back, especially if Showtime stays with the boxing and doing as big as they are in the box office with the numbers. I see HBO. I think it would have to come back. Well,
I think with things like Netflix and Amazon Prime, they're making these television shows now that are so popular that they're such high budget. But you get things like Game of Thrones. It costs so much money to make, but so many people watch it. Yep. I think they're concentrating on those kind of things because they're so profitable.
And I don't think it's the networks anymore that got to worry about shutting down too, with all these other Zulu and Amazon and Netflix being out. I think eventually some of the cable companies are going to have to worry.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it seems like we're entering into a new era of entertainment.
Yeah, technology and the advancement of it. Again, these apps, I think that ESPN Plus had over 7 million some subscribers when it came out because of the boxing and everything else. And that DAZN does the UFC or fights on there and boxing. So you're going to have these coming out, and people are going to get into it, and it's changing. It's changing a lot.
Well, they're doing Bellator fights. They're doing a lot of fights on DAZN, right?
Yeah,
yeah. It's a very exciting time.
Have
you thought about you were talking a little bit about commentary? Have you thought about doing commentary?
Yeah, I have.
Have you ever done any of it?
No.
But
I would like to. Honestly, I would. I not knocking anybody. I may not be the best talker in the world either, but I listen to some of the guys on there, and I'm like, I think I could do that.
Listen, I know you can do it. You can definitely do it. But it's to me, it adds a certain element when a real world-class fighter is breaking down situations, because you're getting to see it from their perspective of how they would approach it. It's not just a guy who's a boxing expert. It's a guy who did it. Yeah, a guy who was a world champion. Like Andre Ward. Like when Andre Ward's on, I fucking love that guy as a commentator.
Yeah, and Paulie's good too.
Paulie's excellent.
Andre and Paulie's is
Malignaggi's one of my favorites. He's excellent. Damn, that motherfucker talks good.
Yeah.
For all the times he's been hit in the head.
Right?
Malignaggi
he moves his head a little bit too.
He moves his head a lot.
Yeah,
but he's smart as shit, man.
Yeah, he is. He's in all aspects of life. He's doing well for himself, and he does the right things. So Paulie, he's a great person. I like him. He's a good buddy of mine. And it is. I think when the fans like to watch and see, they want to hear from the historian or the guy that's the other commentator who just knows the sport and who can speak well. They like hearing their side of it.
Yes.
But I think at some certain times during a fight, they like to hear from the fighter, like, hey, what the hell is going through that guy's mind? He just got smashed, with that right hand, or he got hit with a good body shot. And
why does this keep happening again? Why is he doing this? What's going on?
Or what the fighter
here?
thinks should be said in the corner, during in between rounds. So I think it's important to have a guy that's been there, done it, as a commentator. Andre
Ward is another interesting guy because he's also young and also world champion, undefeated, and just decided, you know what, I'm good. See ya.
He is right now. Actually, it's funny, and I'm gonna have to talk about it a little bit. I was covering a fight, the Lomachenko Pedraza fight, and he comes up to me and out of nowhere, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "Damn, you're getting big," and he's smiling, he shakes my hand, and he walks down to cover the fight, and I'm sitting there and watching the fights, and then I'm getting ready to head out after the fight's about over, and he comes walking up, and he goes, "Hey, if they offered you $10 million, would you make a comeback?" I'm like, I couldn't find a reason why I wouldn't. I don't know. And he smiled and he walked away, and I'm scratching my head. I'm going, I wonder why, why he would ask me a question like that. Yeah, I've seen recently that he's looking at certain fighters as a possible comeback.
Oh, so he's thinking about doing it again.
Yeah, he is.
That itch. It's so
it's
itchy.
real. Yeah, it's real.
It's so itchy. I just don't think you're ever going to find anything that's going to recreate the highs of like when you knocked out Jermaine Taylor. How the fuck could you recreate that high?
You can't. You can't.
That combination when you pinned him in the corner and put him away, and then you walk away and you realize that you won. Yeah. Holy shit.
And that don't even kick in. That's all going 100 miles an hour. You're up on that. I see the pictures all the time.
Pull that up.
They have me with the hands in the air, and I see all the people, and that's just, it was so fast. It took me a while before I could. Even though I walked out of my house and I had them up, on the side. This was before I moved. I still lived with my parents at the time, and I did too. I had them up at the house, and I'd be leaving to go to the gym or something. And I look over at the belts, and I going, wow, you know what? Those are mine. But it never really kicked in until like a little while later. Like, those are my fucking belts.
Yeah, that night.
I did that. I'm the world champion. Not only I got one, but I got 3 of them.
When you were lying in bed that night, you probably had to be going, oh, am I in a fucking dream?
That's what it felt like.
Here it is. What a fight this was. God damn, this was a fight. This was one of my all-time favorite middleweight championship fights for sure. And Jermaine Taylor, man, he was a bad motherfucker.
He was. And again, a lot of people talked about the handful of fights before that and the tough, with smaller guys. But he was a bronze medalist who beat, the man, Bernard Hopkins.
There it is. Doom. The combination when you put him away, too. Fucking phenomenal, man. Phenomenal. This right here, when you walked away.
That was all a blur. I just put my hands up. Yep.
Fuck, man. I mean, what that feeling? Like, try to describe that. Like, what is going through your head?
Everything possible for him not to get back up. I know it sounds funny when people say that, but that's the truth. My big thing was, if I got somebody hurt, get them out. Because boxing is dangerous,
right.
And anything can happen. If they can get back up, they have a chance at knocking you out or beating you. So,
but when it was over, like, what does that feel like?
It's hard to explain. It really is. You're on cloud 9. There's nothing that can bring you down.
You went from being a prospect.
Your dopamine is through the roof.
To being a world champion, to being a huge superstar in boxing.
Yeah. And it's hard to grasp at once, and it takes time. And unfortunately, sometimes you get it when it's too late. You know what I mean? You really grasp it, and it's just one of them things. It's, even I was talking with a guy last night, and he brought up he was originally from South Korea, and he was talking about he goes there all the time, big business guy, and he says they actually study my fight down there on something on how you could get knocked down. This is more of, in your field of it, up your alley, how you get knocked down and what gets a guy to get back up and recover, the recovery, the endurance to pretty much have your brains rattled but be able to come back that strong rounds later and knock somebody out, Yeah. And for me, the simple answer is, of course, training hard, making sure I'm in shape. But I guess what he's trying to figure out is like, what's the brainwave? What's the pattern, mindset? What's the drive that gets you to do that? What is the endurance of the muscles? And that's pretty deep thinking a little past.
I think there's a lot there. There's a lot, and there's no one. First of all, every combination that you get hit with is different. Some combinations you're just not going to get up from, and some of them you're on the border. Can you get up? Can you not get up? How bad do you want it? Maybe you think about your daughter. Maybe you think about your mom.
Yeah.
And you just get this burst of adrenaline, and you're like, fuck this, I'm getting up.
Yep.
And the referee gives you the count, and you just fight smart and keep your hands up and keep moving. The next thing you know, that cardio kicks in, and then you're back. Like, look at Tyson Fury against Wilder.
That's the way I looked at it. That's like the simple way of looking at it.
Tyson Fury against Wilder, by all rights, that fight should have been done. He lands that right hand and then that left hook, and you see Tyson Fury go down like he got hit in the head with an asteroid.
Yeah.
Boom. He's just flat on his back. You're like, holy shit, he knocked him out in the 12th round. And then
everybody thought he did the Undertaker.
Yes,
from WWE,
crazy.
The way he sat up. Yeah, I seen all the memes and gifs of him sitting up, and they showed the Undertaker doing it. With that right there, I think a little different from mine. I personally believe that he wasn't hurt that bad.
Really?
I believe that he got dropped and that was legit, but he was laying there taking the 8-9 seconds, to recover, and he got up. I don't think he was out because there's no real way to be out that cold.
I don't know.
And get up and
the hand of Jesus.
Yeah, right.
The hand of Jesus came down upon him. Man, let's watch that knockdown. Pull up that knockdown.
Yep.
I feel like that was one of the most fucking brutal.
And as far as mine, but when you were talking
about
about that, as far as like what's going through your head, it's crazy because when I got knocked down, it was more of an equilibrium shot. But I could hear my legs were gone, but I could hear certain people in the stands, and I knew what was going on. And the first thing that was in my head was, "Man, you worked way too hard to go out like this." So it is that drive.
Yeah, here it is right here. What's crazy is that Wilder, look at this, boom! I mean, come on, man. This dude, he's fucking.
I'm just saying,
he's fucking hurt. He's fucking hurt. Something happened. Jesus came down upon him.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying. I don't know. Maybe he was hurt. I mean, he went down. He went down pretty bad. He went down quick.
Incredible. And then his ability to recover.
Yeah.
And the fact that
he's not the best in shape guy either.
You don't think so?
No, I mean
he kept moving for 12 fucking rounds.
Well, yeah, he did do that, but to be able to get up that quick.
Well, how is he not the best in shape guy? I mean, to be 6 foot, that's a fucking crazy knockdown. And then Wilder does the slit
he's in
throw.
great shape for a heavyweight. Mm-hmm. You could put it that way.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, no heavyweight is ever going to be in the same kind of shape that, say, welterweight's going to be in, just because you're carrying around so much body mass.
But I'm saying from the point of getting up that quick after being dropped and not to be stumbling and falling over.
It's true. I mean, he just came back and
that's why I'm thinking more so like, he got hurt. And I'm probably wrong on this, but I'm saying like, he got hurt and he's laying there and he's going, shit, let me just
Let's watch it here. Here comes that fucking missile. And then this one. Boom. I mean, come on, son.
Timber.
That is some crazy shit. They said he hit his head, but he did not.
He landed on
he
his
did
shoulder.
not. Yeah. People say his head bounced off the mat. It never bounced off the mat. He kept his head up as he was going back, which lets you know that he was conscious.
Yeah.
But doom and ba-boom. I mean, he got fucking rocked. But
I wish they would have had an overview because you could tell by the eyes also.
Right, whether or not they're rolled back in his head.
Or to the side.
Cardio is significant. If you're in great cardio shape, you recover quicker. You know, there's a bunch of different factors in why you recover quicker. Your mindset has to play a factor, right? How bad you want it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, no doubt he was hurt from that punch and he went down. I'm just thinking for that period of time, was he laying there also saying, I'm going to take the full 8, 9 to get up? Or, like you said, did a hand come down
Jesus
and touch
came
him?
upon him and rose from the dead.
Yep.
He's just a tough motherfucker, man, and a good guy, too. Super fucking smart guy.
It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, what a character. And now, when you were training and you were doing your strength and conditioning, were you like an old school method guy, or did you use heart rate monitors and all the new school methods? No?
I like the functional strength training. I did a lot of that.
What kind of stuff?
I do sledgehammer and tire, pushing.
Matt Brown has a great. He's got what is Matt's company? Give his company a plug. I think it's Immortal something strength and conditioning. But he's got a great bunch of. He's got sledgehammers with a rounded head, so you don't have to fucking swing it around. And
Immortal combat equipment.
Immortal combat equipment. He's got a great sled too that you stack weights on, and he left a lot of that stuff out there. These grip,
wagon.
The war wagon. A lot of different grip strength apparatus things like balls that you do chin-ups for those balls on the far left. You do chin-ups gripping those things.
Yeah.
He's got some great shit. Those are
pull-ups,
right?
dips, pushing trucks. Man, what else did we get into? I would go to this place called Ironman Warehouse, and it was kind of a nice setup there too. And it was more for like the gym owner. I love him to death, and he's crazy. He truly is, and he's about 48 now, and he can still run. He runs with the matter of fact at my world title fight against Taylor at the boardwalk. Everybody kept talking about. There was like 4,000 people talking about this crazy guy running on a beach with, I think the log was like 120 pounds, just running nonstop. Yeah, real Christian guy, into it, and he does all that.
Running with a log on his back?
Yeah, he runs all the peace races with that. Phenomenal shape. Well, he had a place down there. A lot of it was the functional strength training. I do pull-ups on fire hoses and for the gripping and everything else. That's what I like doing. That was, 'cause I wasn't building muscle, but I was getting strong as hell, and I was getting also a lot of cardio work involved in that. But for the most part, it was the strength.
There he is.
Yeah,
running around with a log on his. Here he is. This motherfucker running around with a log. That can't be good for your knees. I wonder how he's walking right now. Like right now. I see guys do screwy shit like that. I go, okay, you can do that right now. But let me see what you look like in 6 months. Let me call you back. I'm going to call you back.
He's been doing it for a long time. I don't know, though, how he does it.
That's so much weight on your joints to be running with a 120-pound log on your shoulder.
He's a freak of nature. I mean, what is that show, the Ninja Warrior or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I truly believe that he could go into that and do very well in that. I mean, he at the Iron Man warehouse, they have the little balls, and he swings from each one up there. He takes the 45-pound plates, and he throws them up in the air, and he catches them back coming down, just crazy things like that. And that's where I went to train after the Miranda fight. I was doing all that shit on my own for the Miranda fight. And then after the Miranda, he had told me, he goes, Kel, I got this place down here. Come down, try it out. And I was doing all that crazy stuff, man, and it worked. And again, it was strong. The only thing that I wish I could have went back with that, now as time goes on and I'm training some athletes at my gym, is we have this machine called a Vertimax piece of equipment. And it's amazing. I mean, it truly is. You could emulate more so than you can with the bands what you're doing. If you're a football player, you
what is it
come
called?
off
Vertimax?
Vertimax.
See if you can find that.
Yeah, it's an amazing.
What does it look like?
For right there for
like
wrestlers.
Are these bands like elastic bands?
But there's the straps. Okay, with the rubber band, your tension's usually gone at the beginning, and then you have to get to a certain point to get it. As where this has resistance all the way through.
Oh, okay. So it's a pulley
muscle.
system? Oh,
Yeah.
it is a pulley system.
Yep.
Oh.
And you can set the tension on it, on the back part. You could pull out and make it a little harder, the tension. But it's unbelievable. And so when you go back down, there's tension all the way through from beginning to end. And it's for that fast twitch muscle, and a lot of wrestlers are using it.
Ooh, I like that.
So I wish I had that because
that a lot.
Adding that in with the functional strength training could have definitely made me a lot better, and I think it could for a lot of athletes.
That seems like you could do everything with that thing.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Well, they have the Raptor also, which is very good. It's the same concept as that, but you put it up on the fence, and you can run out farther and do different things on the Raptor also.
With that thing, could you do like shoulder exercises and stuff with it as well? You just have to prop it up?
I've been screwing around with it at my gym, and I found ways to do flies with it on putting a little balance boards. I put that down on it, and I get the straps where you can do flies with it.
Yeah.
Shoulder exercise, core, especially with the Raptor. You can walk out with that.
What is the Raptor?
It goes on the wall. It's more for like travel.
See if you find that thing.
So you could put it on the fence at a baseball field and do swing. You could even do golf swings.
There it is right there.
Yeah.
Vertimax Raptor. Oh, wow. Look at that.
Golf swing.
And can you adjust the tension?
Yes. It's this on the back, so you'll pull it. They have little black spots that tell you, it goes up to three spots. So
that seems like that would be great for punching power as well.
It is. And the thing is, you don't want too much tension with that.
Right.
I try to explain. I got some people that work with guys at my gym on it, and they train them more like an endurance thing. Mm-hmm. And I tell them you're defeating the purpose. There's a place and time for strength and endurance, especially a boxer. A guy's running in the morning. He's hitting pads at the gym. I really think that should be focused on the explosion. Don't go till you're tired. I want every rep, every movement to have explosion.
Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. So you just it's just enough resistance so that everything that you do just gets
and if you put too
accentuated.
much resistance, then you're not going to be able to really fire off the fast twitch.
Right,
So,
right.
Now, the only thing I see also that could hurt people is if they do the whole workout with that. Now what happens is you eventually get tired and fatigued, and then all your motion is slow. So now you fall in the habit of that. I like to work them on it for about 15, 20 minutes, take them off, and then have them do the same exercises with it after with no resistance. And then just keep it that day just with the fast twitch muscle, the small muscle training. And then the next day we go into strength, or endurance.
So are you training guys?
I'm right now
Because you own this
powerlifting,
gym.
and I have one boxing.
What is the name of your gym?
My gym.
It's just called MI Gym?
So we had to change the I because somebody already had my gym.
MY gym?
Yeah, and it's
so
not.
It's me gym.
Yeah, me gym.
It's me gym. Come on down to me gym, lad.
Yeah. Or in Spanish, it's my.
Yeah.
Or in Italian. Yeah, no, we got. I'm doing that with them right now. It's fun working with them, strength and conditioning. You know, I am also going to be doing a boxing gym at the end of the summer, hopefully in Youngstown. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Now, when you were training and you were fighting, did you have a specific schedule of when you would do strength and conditioning and how many days a week you would run, how many days a week you would do like physical exercises?
Yeah, you know, and that's another thing. You all, as I said earlier too, you always keep learning. You know, and there's never. It worked for me for what I did when I was fighting, and I would totally have changed it now, knowing the stuff that I know and you know, being involved in it and researching. And, you know, we used to run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 miles, and then take Thursday off, and then Friday and Saturday. And then we do, on top of that, I would go do my strength and conditioning training, and then I would be at the boxing gym. That's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot on the body, too. And, you know, like when I went to California, we did Monday, Wednesday, Friday running, and it was only 2.5, 3 miles. And then those days in between, we did the strength and conditioning training. So I didn't have a preference on that. I didn't care. The only thing I did say is I didn't want to run early in the morning.
Why is that?
Because I didn't get going. I wasn't one of those guys in the morning, and it happens to people. You know, like if I went and ran too early, I would end up feeling like shit the rest of the day.
Really?
Yeah, you know, like just dragging ass. As where when I went and ran at like 9:30 in the morning, I got my best run in, I killed it, and then I felt great the rest of the day.
How much sleep would you make sure you had?
That was a tough one. I got about 7 to 8 hours.
Yeah, they say you need 8, and you really should try to get 10 when you're a professional athlete.
Yep, I took my Sundays off, and I rested all day Sunday, and I kind of ate, you know, a good amount of carbs and kind of what I wanted to on Sundays, you know, depending on where the weight was out and how far out we were from the fight. But I really don't believe in the theory of you got to wake your guy up at 4 in the morning and make him run. I don't. If I was training guys, I want my guy to run out whatever I'm going to get the best run out of him. That's what time I want him to run. He'll adapt, and especially after he keeps fighting, he'll adapt. It's more mind over body. But I think the gym is non-negotiable. At 3 o'clock, I like to train, and if I was training guys, my gym hours would be between 3 and 7.
Why do you like late afternoons?
Because it gets you closer to the fight night. You know, especially closer to a fight, I would like actually for my guys to train about 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock. Yeah. You know, depending on what they have and are going on in their personal life.
So you have like a clock. So your body has like a time that it knows it's going to work.
Yeah, and I didn't do that.
What did you do?
I sparred at, 4, 3. But if I'm talking about me being a trainer, I would like that for my fighters.
So what you've learned from your career, you just apply it. Yeah.
The only thing I would really take from it would be the running in the morning. You know, if my guy said, hey, coach, I'd rather run after the gym tonight, and I knew that was going to make a difference in a minute on his miles, okay, run at night. Because I want him to get the best run possible. Right. You know, that's most important. So, did
you run for speed? Did you do sprints? Did you do long distance running? Like, what kind of running did you do?
I did do sprints. We added. I wish we could have done more, but I was big with the steps too. And we have
stairs.
Youngstown State University in Youngstown, and it got one side that's pretty big. It's steep, and it goes up. And I would do that probably about 3 times a camp. For a believer, you got to watch how many times you do that throughout a camp because it builds muscle, especially running that high, doing the steps. And then when you start cutting the weight and you got to get down, it's going to be hard to lose that extra pound, which could make a big difference come fight night.
So for a 6-8 week camp, you would only run it 3 times?
About 3 times, yeah. But then I had sprints on the hills, and I did regular sprints because the regular sprints is firing that fast twitch muscle, and it's also hitting the big muscle, and it's building the legs and strength. Distance was important, but still another big one to me is the pad work, the training at the gym. I'm not a big fan of bag work, anybody hitting the punching bag.
How come?
Because you learn how to manipulate the bag, and you learn how to trick your trainer and everybody else. I could go hit a bag right now and probably do 10 rounds on it. Just because I know how hard to punch. It's hard to tell as to where when you're hitting pads, I know how hard my guy is punching, and I'm giving him the combos and the numbers. So he has no time.
He has to concentrate on what you want him to do.
And he's not throwing the punches that he wants.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's easier. I mean, it's harder than hitting the bag. I think that's a big part of the training, that I would do with the guys, and it makes a big difference overall.
Did you do like a lot of drills in terms of like movement drills with combinations? Like
not at home either. I didn't when I trained in Youngstown.
No.
I learned a lot of that, when I went to California
from Garcia.
Yeah. So
is that one of the reasons why you were saying like, man, it was amazing that I could learn so late?
Because I was cocky. I'm going,
yeah.
What the fuck are they going to show me after 12 years of being pro?
He's an awesome trainer.
Yeah, I was cocky. I'm like, I got all these fights, and I was, great amateur. What more can you show me? And I went out there, and I learned. You can be taught. And taking nothing away from, Jack and my trainer at home, I mean, that guy, he got me ready, though. Like, if you're fighting, I was in shape. He was like a drill sergeant on that. And, another little thing on that with the running, cement, I think now I would have my guys run on grass, track. Even if it's boring, I don't care if you're bored running, you're going to run around the track. It's easier on the joints and less demand on the body. But so overall, I mean, there's a lot. That's why I like it. That's why I like being involved right now with the strength and conditioning gym, because I'm working with people, getting them healthy, helping them out, and eventually I could add a lot of this to my fighters.
Yeah, there's a long education when it comes to physical fitness.
Yeah.
A long education, understanding how much is too much, when's the right time to do things, and that's one of the reasons why I was asking you, like, how did you decide if you were going to do 3 times over the course of a training camp, you're going to run those stairs? How did you decide that? Was that a strength and conditioning coach that decided that?
No, that was me. Because
because
I didn't want the muscle. I knew it would come.
You put some weight on you.
Yeah. Come time when you're starting to dry out, you're going to wish that you kind of didn't. But I always was afraid in the back. I was second guessing my conditioning. So I always wanted to be strong.
Right.
And again, the stuff like that, Vertimax, that wasn't out yet. We had the bands, and we do some of the exercises on that. I never researched much at that time either. I was in great shape, and I was strong as a mule, but there was other things like being athletic. I started eventually towards the end doing some cross-training. You said you're a big fan of that.
Yeah.
I absolutely am also. I think becoming a great athlete overall, there's nothing wrong with that, and it's fun. It breaks up the monotony of the same training regimen all the time.
Do you remember when they didn't want you to lift weights? They didn't want boxers to lift weights.
Yeah.
Like before Mackie Shilstone, before he worked with Michael Spinks, when he moved up to heavyweight and fought Larry Holmes. I mean, remember people were saying like they don't want boxers to lift weights, that it's going to tighten you up and slow you down. Like that was the thought process behind it. And then from him, and then in particular Holyfield, when Holyfield went from cruiserweight to heavyweight, and he put on a lot of mass. That was Mackie Shilstone too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that just changed the game. Jamie?
That's your guy, but I don't want to make him have to keep searching things.
Oh, he loves it.
They actually have, if you could put in Kelly Pavlik workouts, training. We had a guy too with the weight. I did do weightlifting when I was fighting.
Yeah.
But I do agree with the weightlifting, and I don't agree with it. I don't think you should go heavy with the weightlifting. If you're going to get your strength, I absolutely.
Look how thin you are, man. Look
put
at you,
training,
slim bastard.
Yeah, put training with at Rockies or something like that. That was California. Yeah, there you go. That's the second one. Yeah, see the lightweight.
Yeah,
man, we would do hundreds and hundreds of reps.
Just endurance stuff.
Yeah, just burning.
When you look at yourself without all the tattoos, do you go, huh? Look at all that blank canvas. Look at those arms.
Yeah.
But you look at those arms now, you're probably embarrassed. Those gigantic tree trunks you're packing now.
No, yeah, but those things kick ass.
Those things will fuck your head up.
They would, yeah, exactly. I don't know if I have the snap on it now like I had then, but so the weights, stuff like that, I totally agree with, because it is great for muscle endurance. And if you're going to get the strength, I go back to the functional training for that. I don't think a boxer or a combat might be a little different with UFC guy, MMA fighters,
because of the wrestling,
and everything else, and that will come down to having somebody that really knows. Like I said, you never stop learning in it. But for me, with my guys, endurance training like that, that's great, and you could even switch that in with some functional endurance training too. One thing we used to do at Ironman, stand there, get a heavy chain, and arms locked out for the front delts, and turn it. For the endurance, do it for a period of time. So there's just a lot of things that you could add in. And I think, everybody goes, well, you don't overtrain them. And that's another thing. Like the body, it's really hard to overtrain. I mean, the only way you could really overtrain is if you're not getting the right nutrition and you're not getting the right rest.
Yeah.
Or
if you push too hard and you don't give yourself enough recovery time and you push it too close to a fight.
Yeah. Or if your camp's too long and you don't get enough rest period in between. Yeah.
That's a big one, the too long a camp. Tim Kennedy, who's a big who's at one point in time, he retired now, but he was one of the top middleweight contenders. He went through 2 camps in a row because one of his fights got canceled, rolled right into a second camp and then fought, and then had no endurance in his fight. You could kind of tell that he was drained. Yeah. It was just too long. It was like 6 or 7 months of really being in camp, something along those lines.
And probably in the lines of somewhere, the nutritionist, it could come down on a person like that. Is he getting enough? Of the sources.
It's also cutting a lot of weight.
Exactly. Yeah. So, dehydration, everything else.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, you got to find, if you're going to bring somebody in. I was fortunate. My dad, we kind of kicked ass on that. We had a little science, broken down to a science, and we made weight good, and we were strong.
Did you monitor your heart rate ever?
No.
Never.
I didn't.
Just felt how you felt?
Yeah.
Did you write down what different kinds of exercises you were doing and workouts, or did you play it? You played it all by heart.
Yeah, and I still do that. I still
Really?
put that in my weightlifting.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like when you write down, you limit yourself.
How so?
Because if I go in, I see guys all the time, not knocking at everybody, but I see them come in with their little notepad.
Yeah.
And they have what they got, and I see them go over and they do literally only 4 sets on the bench, and they write down what they did, and then they go over and do some dumbbells, or same with the squats. I feel you're limiting yourself. I mean, you didn't work that muscle to failure, and you should most of the time, because if not, that becomes maintaining. You're not breaking down the muscle fibers, and for it to recoup. I feel, when you go and lift, I'm not saying every exact time you have to kill it, but when I go in, I want to do either a little bit heavier or more reps than I did last time. You know what I mean? For me to get to the point where I want to get, and it has worked for me. I feel like when you write down, the only time I do write things down is if I'm doing a chart. I'll go through that chart, and then when I finish with it, I finish out with so many reps in that same percentile of my PR. You know what I mean? And I'll go down. Now, then I have a speed day, an endurance day with it, and that's when I rep out, and I do sometimes up to 300 reps, on a body part, and speed and endurance. And then before I even do that, I work on, say, if it's bench or squats, I get the bands. And I have my guys do no more than 6 reps, and it all got to be explosion, because that helps in powerlifting for that 1 rep max, the explosion off. So it comes down, and that's my theory on it. A lot of people, do it. And then you got guys who do write down, though.
Do you think there's any benefit in the kind of lifting that you're doing now for a boxer?
I think right now, if you have the time, yeah. It could help.
If you had time in between camps.
Yeah, if you had time to get that big or get that strong for maybe 2 months of heavy. But I also think that you need a good period of time of no heavy lifting.
To recover before you start really boxing again.
So your body's going to be used to it, muscle memory. You're not going to lose all that strength, because you're not just stopping the powerlifting and not doing anything.
But it seems like a real guessing game, or at least an experiment.
I wouldn't try it if I was active and I had an active fighter. But yeah, I would like to see somebody try that eventually one day. You never know; they're always coming out with something, or they're always debunking some other. You have to do this. And my favorite thing is where I get in about the training, when people say you can't do this 2 days a week, you can't bench or squat. Look at your guys in Joe. All they do every day.
Lift weights.
Yeah, fight and lift weights.
And eat shitty food.
And they don't have the supplements that we have. They can't take a protein powder drink and BCAAs.
Yeah.
So, and they're not small. They're huge. They're jacked. They're lifting every day.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, are you familiar with Pavel Tsatsouline?
Yes. Wasn't he the guy also with the kettlebells?
Yeah. He's got some interesting thoughts about strength training in particular, because he's one of those guys. He believes you should do more rest in between reps, less reps, and you should do it more often. So instead of like one brutal workout a week where you break your body down and you walk like you're getting fucked in the ass by a rhino for 2 days. Instead of that, you work out with less repetitions. Don't go to failure, but do it 2 or 3 times a week. You get more repetitions overall over the end of the week, but you'll be able to recover better, and you never get that full breakdown, but your body gets just as strong or stronger.
I seen that, and I was reading on that, and I was going to put that in, put that into my program. And I read a lot of them. I see like Simmons with Westside. They got some great ideas. And when it comes to lifting weights and powerlifting, there's only so much. So somebody's got it from somebody. Do you know what I mean? Like Westside, they were big with the Russian Olympic team and everything else. There's only so much you could do. There's only so many programs you could do where you're not tapping in and copying off this person's. I think adding that in, there's nothing wrong with that either now. Now, changing it up after a while and shocking that body, I think that actually helps you get stronger, and changing the program a little bit. But, if that works, I don't know. And that's something that I may try one day because I'm doing powerlifting, but powerlifting ain't going to be my vacation home in Hawaii.
You just doing the powerlifting for a goof?
Fun. Yeah, for fun. It was something that was fun. And I got guys who I got involved with, a buddy of mine, actually a coach on, certain days of the week. We work on the heavy. Lonnie Atkins, he's great. He's a 6-7-time world champion powerlifting, drug-free, federations like Raw and WNPF. And that's what I'm in because I feel like, I'm not knocking the other people that use the steroids and stuff, but for me, I like going a natural route, and, it's funner. Especially
if you think about fighting again. Because if you do, you don't want to fuck up your endocrine system.
Well, that's where I really turned against it also, is because of the boxing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to make anybody too mad, but when people use it, I feel like you're taking away, and I do feel like it's cheating. I tell people in the gym, my gym, there's certain people in there that do it, and they try to come over and tell people how to work out, and it's kind of like, listen, your working out is totally different than this guy's, and what you do to get big is totally different, all because of that reason. Yeah. It truly is. And,
especially powerlifting.
Exactly. And I got guys right now that are freaks of nature that do it, and you could tell that they're not on it, because if they are, then they have to have a long talk with their dealer. You know what I mean? One of those type things. But I like doing it because for me, it's not cheating, and also I like the fact of, like, when I hit a plateau, it's more fun for me to go through and research things and look at, like, how do I get out of that, and what's good nutrition that helps naturally raise this or raise that, you know what I mean? And different workout routines, like the board work, chains, add that all in. So that's where it comes fun for me also.
Yeah. Do you get your blood work done or anything like that?
I did get a blood panel last year and everything.
Just last year, huh?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, and it came back.
You don't get
good.
Like normal ones, regular ones?
Kind of afraid though, man. I'm getting to that age, I don't want that shit coming back. Like bad.
You don't want to know?
Yeah, hell, if I start feeling it, then I'll go. But no, but you should too. I recommend it to everybody and every athlete. They should. And eventually, my time is to go back soon also.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing. I think everybody should do it on a regular basis. I really do. Yeah. I know you don't want to know about anything bad, but you do.
No, but you have to.
If there really was something funky going on, and you went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, Kelly, these numbers are bad. We gotta do some more more tests and see what the fuck's happening.
Especially with all these different diets that people are getting on. I'm seeing horrific things. I had a brother-in-law from, a certain diet, that keto diet,
what happened to him?
Fatty liver, this.
What?
Because he's not, you don't drink. Yeah.
What? Well, the keto diet?
That's what I'm hearing. Well, if you really look at it, I mean, you're eating the fat, all that fat. And sometimes you're supposed to be. Yeah. But if that's all your body got to burn, and your organs got the
what
filter.
Happens with people where it does get dangerous is, first of all, that if you have certain genes, certain people, it's just not the best diet for, and it's a lot of trial and error to find out. But it's also, if you engage in a high fat content diet, but you also have high carbohydrate, which is where a lot of people cheat and fuck up. That's not good. That's not good for you. Like you got to get your body into ketosis.
So, yeah.
If you don't get your body into ketosis and you're taking this high level of fat and high level of carbs, it's just not a good combination.
You know more than I do on it. If you come off of it, you can't just indulge into the carbs either, right? Don't you slowly work that back into the diet?
Your body always knows how to process carbs. it's more difficult to get your body fat adapted. But once your body does get fat adapted, what I found is I'm not on a ketogenic diet right now, but when I've been on it, I can get back in it pretty quick. But it takes a while. Like the first time I did it, it took a solid 2 weeks before I felt normal. Okay. For 2 weeks, I was dragging ass. It was hard to stick through it. Like I didn't want to stick through it. I just wanted to, I'm just going to have a fucking apple and a bowl of pasta and blow this diet off. But if you get through it, then you feel your body switch over. And when you feel your body switch over, what happens is you have more even energy throughout the day, less tired, no crash in the middle of the day. But I do have to say it took a long time before my workouts felt like I could have the same intensity. I would die off quicker.
And that's how I look at even some of those, what do you call it, intermittent dietings too.
Intermittent fasting, yeah.
Fasting, yeah. Like the when you're drying out and you're not eating in that period, I wouldn't recommend working out at that time. Powerlifting or strength training.
Yeah, I think that's a different kind of animal.
Yeah, because now you're getting into tearing down the muscles and everything else.
Yeah.
Maybe some cardio wouldn't hurt. Listen, I'm not. That's why I'm saying I'm not knocking all of them. And my brother-in-law, the doctor told him they think that's what it was from. Now, granted, that could be because he messed up on a diet somewhere along the line. Eating. I had a buddy also that got fatty liver from eating too much of the meat. And again, that could have been grass-fed or steroid-type meat. Makes a difference.
Or vodka. Who knows what the fuck that does.
Yeah. I don't even know if that does cause that.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, and me personally, I'm not knocking any of it because here pretty soon I got to try some shit myself. You know what I mean? I got to start losing weight again.
Well, did you start eating like crazy because of the powerlifting?
Yeah.
Those guys eat like fucking savages.
And now they're also coming out to like where you could eat right and lose weight and still be strong. I started eating like that, and then it really, I'll tell you where it gets me. So I was never a real big sweet tooth eater. I'd eat a piece of cake or a candy bar here and there. I'd have like total throughout the day 1 can of pop. I drink a half a can in the morning or an afternoon. Then at night,
pop for people who didn't grow up
in Ohio.
Yeah. In Ohio.
Oh yeah, pop.
It's soda.
Okay.
Coca-Cola, Pepsi. Sorry.
You a pop guy?
Columbus, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Pop. There you go.
Ohio cool. In the house.
Yes, and that's right. Yeah, we talked about that, and. That's what I would do. So it wasn't that bad, but it was still enough sugar.
That's a lot of fucking sugar.
Yeah, and then I would start. The one meet I was doing a 220-pound weight class. I was 232, and my guy was like, "You ain't gonna make it in 6 days to get down to 220." And that kind of like I chuckled at that because I had to make 160 before. So I got all this fat sitting on me. You're gonna tell me I can't lose that in 6 days? Bet. And
this is for powerlifting?
Yeah, so I got down with that, and I was doing it. I watched what I ate. I didn't even do hardly any cardio for that, and I still got down fairly easy to 220. Then, now where I'm falling into this bad habit is I'll have like a piece of cheesecake sitting in the refrigerator, okay? I know, and I love cheesecake. And
Me too.
That's one of my favorites.
It's a good one.
And there would be 2 cans of pop left, all right? And my whole thing is, I can't start watching because I don't want to say diet. I start saying watching what I eat. And I go, I can't do that till it's gone. I can't have that. I know. It's weird. I'm telling you, I can't start it till it's gone.
But you can't throw it away.
I can't throw it away. And
why can't you throw it away?
Because it's only one piece left and I don't want to do that. So, and then the next thing I know, my sister-in-law, who's a hell of a baker, she makes something for the kids or makes me a homemade cheesecake. And the next thing I know, I'm back into the same thing again. Now, let me tell you something else that contributes to this. I think all the years of fighting and having to watch my weight, and especially for me to get down to 160, and even when I was fighting at 47 in the amateurs, my life was pretty much running, and it was a job. It was time. Somebody was there. I just couldn't go run. I had to run it so fast, and I was being timed for it in the distance. I had to watch what I was eating. I had people over me watching what I was eating. And when I retired, I was like, fuck this, man. I'm free.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I sometimes put that in the back of my head. I shouldn't, but I put it in the back of my head like, man, you deserve this, man. Screw it. You did that all these years. But now it's coming to the point, too, like, you are getting a little older. You look a little bit like shit other than your arms. Like, you're going to have to start hitting a treadmill. You know what I mean? It's one of those type things where...
If you just cut the sugar out, man.
Yeah, and it works. And I don't want to hear people say that they can't lose weight. Now, that will only work for a certain period of time until that, like, levels out. Then that's when you start tweaking the calorie intake and
right, but you can
else.
lose a lot of weight if you just cut out the sugar.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. I don't want to hear people say it's hard. So I'm eventually, I said when I get home from this trip, because like last night I went out with my buddy and we ate pizzas and stuff like that. So, because I don't have the access to healthy food right now.
Right, while you're on the road?
Yeah.
There's plenty of places in L.A. you can eat healthy.
I know there is.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you say you can't eat healthy here?
That's the mindset, man. I know.
Yeah, the mindset. But that's, the thing about a lot of great fighters is they're very impulsive too.
Yeah.
It's just that fuck it mentality that sometimes carries over to eating as well.
Look at a lot of your retired fighters.
Yeah, they balloon up.
They blow up. Again, I keep saying, I'm not like bragging or anything, but here I'm fairly decent. You know what I mean?
I think at least you enjoy working out. I think some guys, they got to a point where they worked out so hard for camps that when it's over, they don't want to do shit.
Yeah.
They're just like, I'm done. It's over. No desire, no drive.
Well, that's why cardio is very rare for me right now. And, I used to say this too all the time. After a fight, I have probably 2-3 weeks off. And there was a place called Mill Creek Park, and a lot of people go to run and exercise and stuff like that. And there's a main street that goes past the park, and you see people riding the bike and running. And I'll never forget, my wife actually started laughing. I just got done with a fight, and we're driving past Mill Creek Park, and these people are out running. I go, what idiots? Like, who gets up and go runs? Chances are
that's hilarious.
Yeah, and chances are, if I didn't have to do it like that, I didn't have somebody hounding me or over me while I was running, chances are I would actually like running and I would like doing cardio and adding that into my training. But because it was a job for all the years from 9 years old to 30 years old, it was like, screw this, man. I don't want to run. The only way you'll get me to run is if there's a fire or a big-ass dog behind me. That's the only way or if I want to run to the buffet table. But
I know some people who do it every day. They get up in the morning every day before work, and they put in 5-6 miles every day.
And you know what? In this reality, you have to.
Yeah.
You got to anymore. Unless you want to be out of shape and miserable, I think it's great to actually start working out. And even for me, I'm lifting weights, and it's fun, and it's considered exercising. And now with what I'm thinking of doing and everything else, I got to start getting into that. Hitting the bag and everything's fun, and I'm hitting the pads, and that's cardio. I mean, that shit's really cardio. And now they're running.
But if you're really thinking about fighting, and you said you're more than 60%, right?
Yeah.
80%?
I would say between around 70 to 80.
That's a lot.
That is. But again, and I'm strongly going to say this, there's a lot of that goes behind it, a lot more to think about also, So I don't want, because what I don't want is in 6 months when I say, you know what, no, I don't want the backlash for it.
Right.
He's fucked up again, and you know what I mean? One of those. And that's unfortunately, that's the way it goes. It does.
But you got to not read that shit.
I know, but that's unfortunately, it really is.
Do you read comments?
I try not to, and you catch them, and you get them. I try not to. Shit.
It seems like the boxing world in particular has a lot of fucking haters. But you know what? It's nothing like football. Like, if a fighter loses, I was watching Barstool Sports Instagram. They got some fucking guy leaving a football game screaming and yelling. I'm like, this guy is what I think about when I think of like douched out like sports fans. This guy fucking screaming about somebody not being able to make a kick. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The guy's going crazy. It's so funny.
I love it. I love hearing when I was playing football and when I was in high school, when you're watching these big games, and you'll see it on social, or I'll be at a buddy's house and I see, but I would have made that.
Get the fuck out of here. Right. People love saying stupid shit like that. Like, how many times has anybody given you boxing advice?
Oh, I have people that don't know the difference between a left hook and a fishing hook. I swear to God, they don't. And
why didn't you just hit him?
Because
you should have got up and hit him.
This TMZ material again.
No, but I mean, like they're saying to you, why didn't you just hit him?
I don't know. I seen an episode That was the funniest. I think it was on one of your episodes with Charlie Murphy, and they were doing the Mike Tyson and like the De La Hoya situation that happened. Like the guy said he could beat up De La Hoya, and that's true. I wish that could happen on a regular basis. You know, like call people out on it when you're in front of somebody.
Right.
Yeah. How many times I hear people say like I could have beat him, and it's like why is he sitting on like $25 million and you're over here picking up UPS shipments? You know what I mean? Like there's a difference for a reason. Nobody's knocking what you do, but you shouldn't knock what he's doing.
Well, you're delusional.
You are.
People are delusional. But for whatever reason, especially when it comes to sports and fighting in particular, people just say some unbelievably delusional shit.
I don't know why, and I truly don't, and I don't understand it. And I never get into the argument long enough to even ask the question.
Well, when was the last time you went on somebody else's page and commented on shit?
I can't tell you.
Yeah, because you're a world champion.
Yeah, and I don't. And that's another reason. And hey, listen, you know what? That's funny too, because how many of them I want to, right? How many of the threads and it might involve me? Because I, you know, again, and the reason why I have to stay up on it is because that's part of my podcast.
Right.
You know, we're through the social media, so I have to. And these boxing groups, or even on our own fight or punchline boxing group, you see the comments, and I'm just going, and I'm like, I can't really answer that though, because I look corny as shit if I answer that one. And,
right.
You know, and it's hard and it's frustrating. It really is.
Yeah. Well, the interesting world that we live in today, I mean, it's a great time to communicate with people. It's amazing. Yeah. But it's also a great time for douchebags to communicate to you, too.
It is. Dangerous time, actually, though. All around.
But I think it's cool that you're doing this podcast thing, and I think it's awesome. And I really do hope you do commentary. Yeah. As far as you fighting, hey, man, if you fight, I'll watch. But if you don't fight, I'll be happy too.
Well, I'll definitely keep you in the loop.
Tell me. Let me know.
I will definitely keep you in the loop.
Come back on if you do announce something's happening.
I will do that.
Let us know. And tell people how to get a hold of your podcast. How can they get it?
My podcast is thepunchline.live. That's the easiest way to get to it. Or on YouTube also, you go to Punchline with Kelly Pavlik and James Dominguez. And we're also on social media on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So those are the easy ways.
Is it on iTunes as well?
No.
No.
And that's where we're trying to go
Get
next
that
round.
shit on iTunes. Jesus Christ.
Hey, listen, I'm learning. Punchline.live, and then, you know, or you go to YouTube, The Punchline with Kelly Pavlik and James Dominguez, and that's the way to get to it.
Well, thanks for doing this, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Man. My pleasure.
I truly, Joe, it was awesome, man.
I appreciate it, man. Fun times.
Yep.
Kelly Pavlik, ladies and gentlemen. That was 2 hours and